Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Sideline Shenanigans podcast today with Jacob Maggard.
Colin Richardson.
And we're rolling into a new point of our lives. I'll bring this up now just because Colin here, college graduate. Congratulations, Colin. He's
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
finished it all up. He's got his aerospace engineering. Is that the degree
Yep.
specifically? So there
Yep.
you go, guys. You want to talk about a guy that knows what he's doing. This is a smart guy down here. He's did very well. So congratulations on that, Colin.
Thank
And
you. Thank
I'll wrap it up here in 2 days. So I've told you guys plenty of times I'm at Tech, and so I'm about to finish it up. But it is we'll see how the podcast goes after this because we'll both maybe have some jobs to worry about. So we'll figure
Right.
out maybe some different times we'll get the pod rolling.
Congratulations to you as well.
Well, I appreciate that, con man, and I'm excited to get it over with because now I can maybe start doing some of this type of work and get paid to do it. Maybe that'll be
Right.
the hope, anyways. But a lot of this podcasting hopefully can help me in that career. So been a lot of fun doing this, and we'll go ahead and roll on into it here. We've got another week of games. Obviously, I didn't get out our last week of coverage, so I wanted to bring that up quickly. We'll try to get most of this out now because I am kind of past all my finals, and so is Colin. So we'll be able to roll out, especially during the Christmas time where we've both got a little bit more free time. And we'll start out here with Thursday Night Football, and we got a good one. So good way to start us on this video. Falcons Buccaneers 29-28. The Buccaneers kind of a game they couldn't drop. If they lose this game, there's really concerns in that division, but we'll talk about it later. The other team fighting for this spot, they didn't really capitalize on it. So the Buccaneers still have a chance. It's just going to end up being a really weird division, which we've had this happen before in this division. I think it was a few years ago that they were, pretty bad teams in this division end up making the playoffs, and that just so happens because it just unfortunately not the best division currently. And Baker, not really his fault as much as it has been the injuries around them. And they do get Mike Evans back. He actually plays pretty well. And they definitely need this team to be fully healthy, though, because when you lose a game like this, you have a lot of concerns moving forward that if you play a playoff game, things are going to go your way. As you can see for the Falcons there, they've got all the stats to talk about. Kirk Cousins is incredible. 373 yards, three touchdowns. There was a really fun interview post game with him, just kind of talking about how he's like, I didn't expect it, honestly, to sit on the bench and be a backup. He said, but I've accepted that role, and maybe that's why I played so good because I was ready to do something like this if I needed to. You see, Bijan has a great game, nearly 20 carries, close to 100 yards and a touchdown on the ground. But the story of this game is if you started Kyle Pitts in the playoffs in your fantasy, buddy, you got yourself a victory because he scored 45 fantasy points in my Yahoo Sports fantasy league. I did happen to have him in the league where my team is horrible, in a league with Colin, and I did get a win over somebody who was going to be in the playoffs. So now they're all in the playoffs, and I'm just happy with my crazy game from Kyle Pitts. Glad I started the guy. So overall, great performance from the Falcons. They got the offense rolling. They were able to score enough points to win this game, and it did take a fourth quarter where they were able to come back to get the victory. Buccaneers got to have concerns moving forward because you just keep losing football games. I think there was a point where me and Colin said this was a top 5 to 10 team in the league, and I can't call them that right now, especially with the injuries and the way they're playing. Colin, your thoughts here?
Yeah, like you mentioned, the Buccaneers really needed to win this game, but fortunately for them, like you said, we'll mention it later, but Carolina was not able to capitalize. So good for the Buccaneers there. It looks like those two, I think maybe still two games left with Buccaneers and Carolina are going to be huge. So those will be fun to keep up with. And this is kind of like what the Falcons were hoping for when they signed Kirk Cousins. Obviously, they drafted Penix as well. And probably wish it was him now, but whenever they signed Kirk Cousins, they were hoping for these type of performances from him, and then Bijan and Kyle Pitts, both of them showing why they were drafted in the first round. Good signs from them, and for the Falcons is you get some still relatively young players playing well, besides Kirk Cousins now. So if they can figure out the quarterback position, I think the Falcons could still have some potential moving forwards. And then for the Buccaneers, this has been a really tough stretch of the season for them. We were mentioning maybe Baker for MVP early in the year, like you said, and the Buccaneers were rolling. They're still a really talented team, and I think they still have a chance to, if they do make the playoffs, could possibly do a little bit of damage. But I don't know what's gotten into them here recently because now they're starting to heal up from their injuries, so that's not really an excuse for them anymore. But they're still unable to win games, but they still got a shot to make the playoffs. So it'll be fun to watch moving forward.
Yeah, and just to add on, last but not least to that, Those Buccaneers Carolina games, like you mentioned, I mean, it's the exact same situation that the Steelers and the Ravens were in when we talked about that earlier, and I think we discussed it then too. Was those are the must wins. If you win those, it does seem like you're going to win the division. So you're probably going to make the playoffs with those victories. And actually, I think it's a guarantee at this point because they're both tied in the division, and those two games are two of the last three. So you can't finish with a worse record than the other team if you get those done. So that's it. Pay attention to those. That's going to decide that division. And if it was me, I think the Buccaneers is the better team, but I think Carolina might be playing better. So I don't know. It's definitely a toss up for a division, and it should be an interesting one coming down the stretch. Anybody else that has Kyle Pitts, think about starting him in your next round of the fantasy playoffs. We'll roll on into our Sunday day slate here. Browns and Bears in what was an insane game that was dominated by the Bears, but you saw Myles Garrett. He is closing in on that record. He's got it down to 22. He is at 22. So he needs literally one more in the next three games. It feels like that's inevitable. Maybe the Dan Moore led offensive line of the Titans could keep him from getting it because somehow that's the second worst game of his career. But he does do well at getting back there a couple times. But I mean, this is terrible from the Browns. They are just not a good football team at all. I think they clearly need to go get a quarterback. I know Shador had his flashes against the Titans, but that's the secondary that literally has a sixth round corner and then two undrafted free agents or two guys that weren't on teams. So that's a secondary that he should have picked apart. When you go play another real secondary, you give three interceptions and you throw 18 for 35 on the day. It's just not good at all. It's really, really bad. And I think he's clearly not a high level starting quarterback in the NFL. And if you have the potential to go get a top two guy like a Dante Moore, if he ends up being that, or Mendoza, if you can trade up, I think you do it. And you say happy that I have Shador as a backup because he's not a bad option at that role, but he doesn't look like a starter yet. And maybe it's just him getting thrown to the flames too fast. They knew he wasn't going to be a starter immediately, and this is not a team to really want to start on. So just like the Titans in their situation, they don't have a lot to help him out. They do. He does get sacked 5 times as well in this game. Not much else to talk about. Judkins doesn't have a good day. The rest of the offense, it's just Isaiah Bond, which is maybe some promising things from the Texas receiver, but just an ugly, ugly day. On the other side for Chicago, you would argue this is probably one of the better games that Caleb Williams has played. He was really good with the ball in his hands, didn't turn the ball over, 242, 2 touchdowns, and did exactly what they needed him to do. They scored 31 points, so obviously they played a great game on offense. DeAndre Swift was good in this game, 2 touchdowns on the ground, nearly 100 rushing yards. And even Kyle Monunga gets going a little bit, has 30 total yards. So overall, not a bad day from that Bears offense. And obviously, 31 points is plenty great. But the defense dominated with 3 interceptions and sacking Shador 5 times. Your thoughts here?
Yeah, and really not too much to say about this one. Going into this week, I saw a bunch of people kind of predicting the Browns to maybe surprise the Bears, I guess because they saw Shadur have one good week against the Titans, which, like you mentioned, is a secondary that he should pick apart. Then he goes into Chicago, the team that leads the league in turnovers, and he turns the ball over 3 times. So, kind of a statement win there for the Bears, showing that they are legit, as they're able to just demolish the Browns. For Chicago, they were able to run all over the Browns, and it's kind of interesting. That's 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
The Titans ran all over them, and now the Bears. So the Browns' issues earlier in the year were just completely offense. The defense was playing like a top 10 unit in the NFL at least top 10, probably better than that. But now you're starting to see issues on the defensive side of the ball. You kind of wonder if that's just like morale issues. Obviously, you still have Myles Garrett doing everything he can to try and get to that sack record, but kind of interesting to see the Browns defense starting to give up quite a bit of points to a really good offense in the Bears, but also the Titans, who have not been a great offense this year so far. So I don't think the Browns have defensive issues, but it's kind of interesting to see at this point in the season.
Yeah, yeah, especially late to start falling apart down the stretch. Like you said, it could be the whole morale thing, and they always talk about, when you're on a losing team, like me as a Titans fan wanting us to lose, you don't really take into account how much it affects morale, how much it is that weighs down on those players, and that they start playing even worse, and then that could even ruin their future with your team, and they might have a bad taste in their mouth and not want to be back on the team, and so that leads to trades and disputes, and so all the losing can add up and hurt you, even if you think it's helping you trying to get a better draft pick. So those are some of the concerns for sure. Rolling into this next one here, talk about a team that was losing a lot of games, was the Baltimore Ravens. They figured it out in this one. It is a cold, I think it was like -7 in the feels like temperature with the wind chill down there. What does that lead to? Derrick Henry getting the ball for over 100 yards. That is exactly what the Ravens' recipe was to this victory was just give it to Derrick Henry. If it hurts when he hits you normally, imagine how much it hurts when he hits you and it's a -7. So that's the kind of player that is suited for those situations, which fits the Baltimore Ravens really well. They also ran the ball extremely well outside of Derrick Henry. Keaton Mitchell, 66 yards on only 8 carries, and Lamar Jackson gets going a little bit on the ground with 26 total rushing yards. So just a great rushing attack from them. Lamar still doesn't have the best day through the air with only 8 completions and has an interception, but he does have the 2 touchdowns. So not a bad day from Lamar Jackson. It's decent for him to bounce back, and you also got to see Derrick Henry rolling. And then on the other side with the Bengals, we thought they could probably beat this team, especially the way they played before. But if you think about cold weather, you think about the ball hardening up, makes it harder to catch, and everybody not named Jamar Chase, they weren't really doing much. It was check it down to the running back or throw the ball to Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase goes 10 for 132, but that was it. That was the entire offense basically in this one. Chase Brown, like I said before, catches a lot of passes and has 50 rushing, but it's just those two players. It's nobody else. Joe Burrow doesn't have a great day with the 2 interceptions, and we've also heard these comments of him kind of, I don't love football anymore right now. That's very scary. If you're a Bengals fan, it doesn't sound like he wants to be there. But if you're a football fan, it sounds like he's kind of tired of playing football. But I think a lot of that has to be the fact that his offensive line never protects him. Like I'm talking, he gets hurt every single season. So who knows? Maybe there would be a little in division trade. Send him down to the Steelers. They wanted to do an in division trade to get Joe Flacco. So maybe they'll do an in division trade to send off Joe Burrow. I know Colin would obviously love that to happen.
Yeah.
Your thoughts here?
Yeah, like you said, there's going to be an open spot probably for quarterback next year in Pittsburgh. If Joe wants to have a little bit of fun, he can come on down where he'll have one receiver.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm sure that would be lovely for him. Yeah, but like you mentioned, that this was a game we were kind of picking the Bengals to win because they beat them in Baltimore. So we were kind of expecting and the Ravens haven't looked good. The Bengals, their offense at least has looked really good as they were able to kind of keep up with the Bills last week. And then this week, the offense was terrible. Burrow said after the game, there is not a single team that would have won with him at quarterback this week, and I kind of agree with it. He looked really bad. Like you said, the drops didn't help him in the cold weather. There were a few drops, one in the end zone by Tinsley, and then Jamar even had a drop or two. So the cold weather, I don't know that it really fits the Bengals scheme of just throw the ball to Jamar Chase or T. Higgins, which they didn't have T. Higgins this game,
yeah.
but the cold weather doesn't really fit their scheme too well, which is interesting. They play in Cincinnati. It does get cold in the winter there. And then for the Ravens, a great bounce back win for them, coming off the 2 losses to the Bengals and the Steelers, two that they really needed to win. And they were able to get rolling here, especially on the ground. Derrick Henry was able to get going. The Bengals defense, it kind of looked like it was getting a little bit better, but they struggled this week, especially on the ground. The points they gave up, 17 points. One of the touchdowns was a Joe Burrow pick six again, but the defense overall just could not stop Derrick Henry or the Ravens run game. So the Bengals still have a bunch of issues moving into the offseason. And then the Ravens, they desperately needed that win to stay within Pittsburgh for the division.
Yeah, and quickly I'll add on, what's so concerning for Cincinnati is they have so many issues they need to address. And yes, they have the biggest problem fixed, and that's quarterback. But if the quarterback isn't there and he's not healthy, it doesn't matter if you have a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. So they have so many issues because the offensive line is not good. It hasn't been good for a while. The run game has drastically improved with Chase Brown, but even the beginning of the year this year with him, he was struggling. And then that pass rush, I mean, when Trey Hendrickson leaves in the offseason, which seems to be inevitable, they have nothing. They drafted Shamar Stewart. He has 2 tackles on the year. So he clearly isn't going to be the answer, or doesn't seem like he is right now. And when you get into draft season and you need everything, you're just looking at like, well, next year's a throwaway as well. And that sucks when you have a Hall of Fame receiver and a Hall of Fame quarterback. I mean, I'm just projecting, saying that those guys are that level of talent. They might never get there because of the injuries to Burrow and then maybe the potential of never winning with Chase because he's kind of locked into that contract now. But a lot of concerns. If you're a Bengals fan, you felt like you were on the moon a few years ago, and now you kind of feel like you're down in the dumps. Moving into this next game here, we'll start off with obviously the biggest storyline of this game is Patrick Mahomes suffers a torn ACL. Obviously ends his season. It likely would have ended his season anyways if it wasn't a torn ACL because they would have just set him because the Chiefs are eliminated from the playoffs. I think if you'd have bet on that before the season started, you'd have got some really good odds. Again, I know you're probably going to hear this from a Chiefs fan and say, "Well, Mahomes got hurt." Mahomes didn't get hurt until the last play of this game, and they were going to miss the playoffs anyways with losing this one. So the Chiefs, not to say the Chiefs dynasty is over, but it could be over if Patrick Mahomes doesn't come back and be the exact same guy that he was. What happens with his ability to move around the pocket to make plays with his legs? Now, I've heard some positive reports from the Chiefs that he might be able to return at the start of the year. They're going to try to, fast track him through his healing process. But to me, that sounds like an even bigger risk. If you're going to fast track a guy through his healing process, I mean, let's be honest. You don't need to win a Super Bowl in the next 2 years to stay alive for the future. You need to just get this guy healthy. You ruin his career, I mean, that ruins the entire team. He is the key, he's the cog that makes the machine turn. So you got to hope he can come back healthy. Travis Kelce had some ominous quotes as well. He said, hopefully, Patrick Mahomes gets healthy for the Chiefs in the future. He didn't say for us and for the team. He said, hopefully, the Chiefs will have him in the future. Kind of sounds like he might be getting towards the end of wanting to play. I know that there's been those rumors that Jason retired because he was done when he went out, and Travis wanted to go out on top and missed his opportunity to do so. And now it's 2 straight years where they're not going to have the opportunity to do that. And can he go out there again for another year where half the year he might not have Patrick Mahomes? Who knows? I think he could probably hang it up too. So it could be the end of the Chiefs dynasty if that happens. If Mahomes is out and Travis Kelce hangs it up and Andy Reid says, "Man, I'm about too old to do this anymore," things could really change, and that would be crazy because I don't think anybody expected it to die this fast. Just the way they were rolling at one point. Now, I will say on the other side for the Chargers, impressive victory. You're able to do enough to keep Mahomes out of the end zone too many times. He himself doesn't even throw a touchdown pass. He finds it on the ground, but doesn't throw one. For the Chargers, again on offense, you score what 16 points. Not your best day offensively, but it's enough to beat the Chiefs and eliminate them from the playoffs and do exactly what you need to do to pretty much shore yourself up a playoff spot. So really impressive from an injured Justin Herbert who still has that left hand injury, throws 210 and a touchdown, does have one interception, but good on him. And he has, a good enough day that it's enough to get it done. Props to Marion Hampton. Comes back after that injury, goes for 61 yards. Kamani Vidal goes for 33. So they combined for what was your entire rushing attack. And Arunde Gadsden and Trey Harris, the two leading receivers for the Chargers. That's two rookies. So good job with those draft picks. Those guys seem like they could be future benefactors of this offense and playing with Justin Herbert. And they're also coached really well. So I expect that the Chargers will be a team to look out for in the playoffs. And man, the headline is the Chiefs dynasty over. Colin, your thoughts?
Yeah, the first time without the Chiefs in the playoffs since I don't even know
I think
when.
nine, maybe 8 years, 7 years. I can't remember the number.
Yeah.
It's every year. I mean,
Interestingly enough, I think the Chiefs were the Steelers' last playoff win, and that was a long time ago. So they were still in the playoffs back then.
yeah.
I think that was the year right before Mahomes took over. So they were making the playoffs even before Mahomes. It'll be interesting to watch the playoffs without the Chiefs for sure, and then possibly without some other really, really good quarterbacks as well. So we'll get into it next, but I think this is Josh Allen's best chance. But anyways, once again, Herbert was able to just do enough to win. Obviously, he's not completely healthy yet, but this Chargers team kind of reminds me of some Steelers teams in the past. They win ugly, but they find a way to win.
Yep.
And I mean, that's all you got to do in the NFL, is just find a way to win. So impressive by them. Like you mentioned, they draft really well. The Chargers do, and then also Adofe Owe
Oh yeah.
picked up
Dante
two
Away.
sacks
Yep.
in this game as well, who they picked up at the trade deadline from the Ravens. So a good trade deadline pickup there from them. And then for the Chiefs, like you mentioned with Travis Kelce, it'll be interesting to see what he does because he is the second leading receiver for tight ends this year. So it's not like he's having a down
Yep.
year. He's actually having a bounce back year. So. It'll be interesting to see if he decides to hang it up or not. He did have that ominous quote with "I hope the Chiefs get Patrick Mahomes back instead of saying we. Hopefully, we get Mahomes back. So I think he'll probably have a talk with his brother Jason. I think it's good to have him. I like Jason, and
Yeah.
he's probably a good guy to talk to when it comes to retiring. So it'll be really interesting to see, like I said, the playoffs with no Chiefs.
I don't know. Some of those close, like you said. I mean, we both kind of brought them up there at the end. It seems like there's the world where the Chiefs aren't just inevitable playoff champions, AFC
Yeah.
champions. I think every year with Mahomes as a starter, they've played in that game. So they're not even going to make the playoffs at all. It's just a crazy, crazy storyline, and it just shows you how crazy of a season that we just started the podcast during. It's an interesting one for sure. Moving on to this next one here, a battle of the two top teams in the AFC. You could argue Bills, Patriots, and it was a thriller of a game. Didn't look like it was going to be because the Patriots were kind of boat racing and they were running away with it, and then the Bills said, "Not so fast. We're the ones that own this division still." And we have to win this game. We have to shore up ourselves a pretty good playoff spot. And this really puts them back in the conversation to potentially win the division. Now, it's going to be hard because you need the Patriots to drop probably two of these last three games, and it's the Patriots. And the way they've looked, I don't know if they'll drop two of the last three, but great, great performance from the Bills in the second half. 28-7 in the second half is just so, so awesome from them. Josh Allen has a really good game, 193 yards, three touchdowns. Plays really well, also rushes for 50 yards. That's the Josh Allen effect. You know what he does on the ground. He's one of the best rushing quarterbacks maybe ever in the history of the sport. I think he leads the sport in rushing touchdowns by a quarterback. So that's really, really impressive from him. James Cook was also great in this game, not to be overshadowed by our leading rusher here, but he goes for 107 yards and two touchdowns in his own right. So really impressive from him. And Khalil Shakir is the lead receiver, which I've kind of mentioned all year how that's the guy for Josh Allen, the slot receiver. And Shakir really stepped up last year and became that guy. So it's good to see him kind of get back and get going. And then the next two guys, both tight ends, Dawson Knox, Dalton Kincaid. That's kind of how he's throwing the ball to guys this year. They just don't have anybody else to catch big time passes. On the other side, quickly for the Patriots, we argue this is maybe Drake May's worst game. He didn't play great in this one, only 150 passing yards and interception. And then you see the two touchdowns he had on the ground, and you're like, maybe it wasn't the worst game because he brings some value there. But overall, passing wise, this is a pretty rough game from him. And you could argue that in the second half, his inability to get going is probably what cost him the game. Now, Matthew Stafford had his game that he lost and didn't play well, so I think that maybe evens them up on bad games. So maybe they're right back together in that MVP conversation. Travion Henderson is the real story here. I love how Vrabel's coached this team this year, but what was he doing playing Ramondre Stevenson for the first half of the season? Travion Henderson is a dog, averages almost 11 yards a carry, goes for 14 carries, 148 yards, and two touchdowns. This kid is a freak. I'm telling you, if he'd been playing from day one, this is your rookie of the year. This is a kid that could literally have won that. Really, really impressive from Travion Henderson. And overall, again, the Patriots receiving attack just not that good. Mac Hollins ends up being the lead receiver. We've said that more than once this year. 4 for 41 yards. Great, great day from the Bills in the second half, and the Patriots, man, this is a big collapse, but I still think they're sitting pretty good to maybe even get the one seed in the AFC. Colin, your thoughts?
Yeah, really like you said, this game looked like it was going to be a blowout. It was 21-0 at one point, and then at halftime it's going in 24-7. But interestingly enough, some teams they get down 24-7, they just want to throw the ball repetitively. But the Bills, they were able to establish the run game in the second half, which was huge for them because like you said, they don't have many receivers. Khalil Shakir and those tight ends are really all they have in the pass game. So huge for the Bills there to get the ground game going with James Cook. And then for the Patriots, like you said, Drake May did not have a very good game through the air, but he did add the two touchdowns on the ground. And then Ramondre Stevenson kind of fumbling his position away has been a blessing in disguise for the Patriots because Travion Henderson has been amazing this year. I agree with you completely. If he had started from day one, he would probably be Rookie of the Year this year. He has had an incredible year. It's those huge runs that he breaks off for just 60 yarder after 60 yarder, huge for the Patriots. So I think he'll be a huge part of this Patriots team moving forward, and I think they have a great little core built there with Henderson and Drake May. If they can just maybe add a couple pieces to that defense and not give up 35 points, which the Bills' offense, like we said, has been rolling. So I think these are probably the two best teams in the AFC right now. It could be an AFC championship matchup
Yeah.
if they don't play before that in the playoffs. they split the season series. The Bills still do have a chance to win that division, but they aren't going to play again. So I think the Patriots should still be able to win the division. They have a pretty easy schedule coming up, and I need them to get a huge win next week.
Yeah, yeah, you need that one to play out well for you in your division. So, but you can handle business in that division as well. That's another path to the playoffs for the Steelers. But yeah, should be a fun division there as well. Of course, in the AFC East, but we will see what happens. Bills Patriots. Moving on to this next one here. This is a divisional matchup and one that I did not think I would see the Commanders be the team to go out and beat this Giants team, especially with Jackson Dart on the field, but that is what happens. The Commanders played pretty good offensive football, scored 29 points on what is a relatively talented Giants defense. Not the best game ever from that Giants defense because you can't let them have a 19-point quarter there in the second. But again, it's overall a good day, I guess you want to say, from the Commanders. They do get another win, which takes them farther away from a good draft pick. And if you're the Giants, I don't know if Jackson Dart played, the best game ever, but he played all right there. 20 for 36, 246, two touchdowns. I think there's like a film room thing that's come out, like a highlight reel from the film room, and they're talking about this game, and the coach, the Commanders, he says he is a running back first. He said, hit him hard, hit him like he's a running back. And he said, showed some clips of him not running out of bounds. And he was like, if you can, hit him like a running back. Don't hit him like a quarterback. So that's what the teams are now preparing to face in Jackson Dart, which is pretty funny because that's just everybody sees it now that he doesn't like to slide and get down. So we'll see, if he starts doing that, especially in an off season before the next season starts back. For the Commanders, again, Bill Krosky Merritt. There you go. That's the kind of game you were hoping to get out of him, earlier in the year when you traded away your star running back. 18 for 96 and a touchdown. And again, this is a guy they took way late in the draft, so they're not concerned about him being some superstar. I think there's still a destination that a guy like a top running back could end up because they don't have a superstar, and I don't think Krosky Meredith showed you enough to just warrant keeping him as your guy. Again, to mention Mariota's stats, he had 43 rushing yards as well, so kind of looking like a young Mariota with a little bit of ground game, 211 and a touchdown through the air. So overall, really good day from that Commanders offense, scoring 29 points. They tried to blow it in the second half. The Giants did actually get back into a 1-point game, but the Commanders were able just to hold on, score again in the fourth, and get it done. The Giants, you have your concerns about. Again, Jackson Dart not getting down. You just want him to stay healthy and keep playing football because he's had I think 5 of the 10 games he's played in, he's been taken out of the game for concussion protocol because he's just getting called down from the refs saying, "Hey, check him. He doesn't look like he's all right," because it happens every week. Tyrone Tracy has a good game, does 15 for 70 and a touchdown, and Dart does have 63 rushing yards. So that's obviously going to be a big part of his game in his career. But just stay healthy and be smart with when you're making plays. I think the next head coach that comes in might try to instill that in him a little bit more, depending on who that is. If it's an offensive mastermind or whoever they go after. Calling your thoughts there.
Yeah, this game was kind of not irrelevant, but it had absolutely no playoff implication at all. But it's still interesting to see the Commanders get a win here. I really expected the Giants to win this one, especially with Jackson Dart on the field. But the Commanders played really well, and the defense held up. Especially like late in the season, as old as this Commanders defense is, you would kind of expect them to really collapse. But they held their own against the Giants here. Obviously, the Giants not being a great offense without some key contributors, but nevertheless, it's an NFL offense, so good there for the Commanders. And like you said, Mariota, he had a really good game, so good for the Commanders, I guess, to get a win here. The Giants still fighting with the Titans for that first overall pick. You were probably hoping for a Giants win there, but like you mentioned, I think the main thing, my main takeaway from this game, at least, where it doesn't really have much playoff implication, is Jackson Dart. I think he has to start sliding. I mean, you see he's like you said, he's gone 5 of the 10 games he started. He's gone to the medical tent to be evaluated for concussion. And I really, I mean, he's not a small quarterback by any means, but even like with the Josh Allen, he slides and he's way bigger than Jackson Dart. So I think eventually, hopefully, the next coach, like you said, will force him to slide because I don't see him having a very long career if he keeps this up. I mean, you saw in his last game he played in before this, he got lit up a couple times, and he can't continue to take those types of hits, or he won't have a very long career, and that would be really unfortunate because I think he is super talented.
Yeah.
So I really hope he starts sliding.
Yeah, and I think if you want an example, Tua Tagovailoa, a guy that wouldn't slide. He would get out of the pocket. He would take massive hits, and now he's had 5 concussions in his career. So he is on the point of literally a doctor telling him he shouldn't play football anymore. If you're Jackson Dart, that has to be the literally the evidence of start sliding. This is the NFL. These guys are different. They are way, way better athletes. They are much better at getting to you and hitting you when they get to you. So start sliding, and I think that's a message that will be preached to him as much as possible during the offseason. Moving on to this next one here, Raiders, Eagles. Eagles get their bounce back game, snapping that losing streak. Really important that they win this one. For me, I was watching this game hoping or checking on the score, hoping that the Raiders would do something. That game was over in a split second. At halftime, I was like, well, that one's over because Kenny Pickett, in his revenge game, I guess you could call it, against the Eagles, since he was on that team as well, goes 15 for 25 with an interception and 64 total passing yards. So on his 15 completions, he was averaging 2.6 yards a pass. That is one of the worst passing stat lines I've ever seen in my life. He's also
Absolutely.
sacked 4 times in this game. So I guess that probably gave you some Stiller nightmare flashbacks from when he was there. I feel bad for little gloved up Kenny Pickett there. Just not his best game. And then you look at the rest of this roster. Just I mean, the stats are nowhere to be seen. 46 total rushing yards. Genty 9 for 35. I mean, that's not a horrible day on the ground, averaging nearly 4 yards a carry, but they can't run the ball when they're down by as much as they were. And other than Brock Bowers, I mean, nothing in the receiving game. They finally got Jack Besh the ball, who I think should have touched it more this year. So really not great from them. On the Phillies side, Hurts has a bounce back game, 12 for 15 through the air, 175, 3 touchdowns. Probably one of his better passing games this year. He struggled a little bit here in that losing streak they had. And Saquon Barkley has a good day, 78 on the ground and a touchdown. And then as you can see, the star receiver was Dallas Goedert, 6 catches, 70 yards, 2 touchdowns. Really impressive day from him. He's already had a game like that this year. Somewhere in the middle of the season, he had 3 touchdowns and had a huge game for them. So target Dallas Goedert a lot is really beneficial, especially when you have those receivers on the outside that draw a lot of attention in Smith and A.J. Brown, who also caught a touchdown. A.J. Brown did. One cool clip I have to bring up because A.J. Brown gets a lot of flack for the diva that he is. He's on the sideline and the fan, it's a little kid, is yelling down at him and saying like, AJ, AJ, and it's cold outside, and so he goes over and fills up a cup of hot chocolate and gives it to the little kid in the crowd. So I thought that was a cool moment because AJ Brown gets a lot of flack for being the guy that has just tore this team apart apparently because he's a diva and doesn't want to be there and all that. So you can kind of tell he still has a heart. He's not a he's not a loser on the sideline. He's at least got some sort of thought process going on. And I loved AJ Brown as a Titan, so figured I'd throw him a little bit of a bonus there doing something like that, get you some positive media. But overall, Eagles dominate the Raiders and look like that, Super Bowl type of team again. Calling your thoughts here.
Yeah, the Eagles really needed this one. The media was kind of starting to come in on Jalen Hurts here, and then he has a really good game. So, great bounce back from him. 12 for 15. He didn't really
Yeah.
get to throw the ball all that much, but when he did, it was really impressive. 175 yards. So he's averaging well over 10 yards per pass attempt. And then on the other side, like you said, Kenny Pickett, 15 for 25 with 64 yards and interception. So one of his best games of his career, of course. No,
Uh,
he actually played better last week
yeah.
in a short sample. So I I'm pulling for Kenny always. I still like the guy. He's a good person. So
Yeah.
no need to hate on him too much
Yeah.
with the 2 gloves. But yeah, I don't think he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. So. But yeah, the Raiders. This has been a lost season for them for a while now. And this kind of really sums up their season. They're facing an Eagles team that's starting to struggle a little bit, and they do absolutely nothing. So, for the Raiders, I guess it was probably the right call to start Geno Smith all year. He's been terrible, but that's the other option behind him. So, I guess right call by the Raiders there. But yeah, like I said, the Eagles really needed to come out strong here and get a good bounce back win, and that's exactly what they did. And then, interestingly enough, for Goddard, he doesn't really have the most receiving yards, but he does have 9 touchdowns on
Yeah.
the year, which is by far the most of his career. I think the most before that it was 5, so he's almost doubled that. So he's having a really good year for himself. And
Mhm.
then you kind of see Barkley there. He has a not necessarily an MVP caliber performance that he was having last year, but a decent little performance for him. So they really need him to get going as they move into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think they even got Tanner McKee and Tank Bigsby in the game in this one. So you had two quarterbacks or two backups on the field, a quarterback and a running back that, of course, traded for Bigsby from the Jags, and then McKee was on the, I think he was on the roster last year as well with that quarterback staff that they had. But he's actually talked about as one of the backups that some teams might try to trade for and start next year because of some of the appearances he had as a backup. So they got to touch the field, but again, not meaningful football, which you hope those guys aren't touching the field in any kind of meaningful football. So that's where you want them to see the field is in those blowout type of games. Move on to this next one here, Jags and Jets, and there's not much to talk about here. Trevor Lawrence. I mean, I'm in an ESPN fantasy league. I barely make the playoffs. I am the sixth seed of six, and I am now playing in the fantasy football championship game because guess who my starting quarterback is? Trevor Lawrence. And I look at halftime. At halftime, he has 30 fantasy points in ESPN, which they only give you 4 points for passing touchdowns in that league. So I was like, holy crap, what is Trevor Lawrence doing? He's cooking. Trevor Lawrence, 20 for 32, 330 yards, and five touchdowns through the air. His lead receiver, his star receiver, is his buddy in Travis Etienne. Three catches, 73 yards, three touchdowns. I also started Travis Etienne in multiple fantasy leagues. So awesome week for me. I guess I was a honorary Jaguars fan, which almost makes me want to throw up when I say it because they are a division rival. But really pulling for their players to do well, and of course they did that. Also, pretty good performance overall from the defense. When you get in these kinds of blowouts, you can start giving up a lot of points because you're up 48. You might leg back and play less defense. You only give up 20 total. I will say. Another positive stat for the Jags is that receiving game has kind of woke up a little bit. There was concerns that when Travis Hunter went down, the receiver room just wasn't good. And now you're getting Brian Thomas from last year. He scores again this week, 4 for 66. That's a better performance. That's not the star player he was last year, but it's better. And Jacoby Myers was the leader out of the receiving room, 5 for 71. So good day overall from this offense. On the other side, of course, we all knew this wasn't going to go well for the Jets. They're not a good football team, and the way the Jags have looked, they've looked really good as of late. Brady Cook, oh gosh, we're not letting Brady cook. That's the facts here. He throws three interceptions, 176 through the air and a touchdown. Yeah, he's not the answer. Of course he isn't. We didn't think he was, but he did have a good college career, so it was interesting just to see him get a play a little bit. He does bring rushing upside, so he had 6.5 yards per carry and nearly 40 rushing yards. But I mean, overall, this is the Jets. They're not good at all. They desperately need a quarterback, and I would say they're the heavy, heavy favorite to trade up to that number one overall pick and then draft a Fernando Mendoza. So watch out for the Jets. Watch out for a potential mock draft from the crew here. We might get together and get one out at some point and see if we can maybe get them traded up to make a pick at quarterback because it seems like that's the spot. Last but not least, quick shout out to the Jets. Adonai Mitchell, who they went and grabbed in that trade, again, 6 for 58, a touchdown. That's a good day from a receiver that was taken in the second round when he was drafted and had a lot of high potential coming out of college. Part of the reason he wasn't taken in the first round is because he had some attitude issues. I don't think that's showing up at all in New York, and maybe it's because he's getting the ball a lot, so he doesn't have any problems. But doing great, so maybe they do get some really good value for those players they traded because they got multiple first and Adonai Mitchell in that trade, and Sauce Gardner doesn't even play for the Colts anymore because of his Achilles injury. So really, really positive that the Jets were able to make that move and get a maybe potential, wide receiver two or wide receiver three for the future. Because when Garrett Wilson's healthy, that might be a nice little receiver room for a quarterback to come into if they can draft a Mendoza next year. Your concerns would obviously be it's the Jets, it's New York media. They are going to tear the person apart unless he has an incredible start. So we'll see what happens. I don't know how much of a do you love that for a quarterback? I think like a Diego Pavia type of quarterback would succeed in New York because he doesn't care what people say about him at all. He's shown that by doing some of the stuff he did off the field this week. I think Mendoza's a really nice guy. I mean, you watch his speeches and stuff, man. He just seems like a really nice, kind human being, and New York could just tear him apart. So I hope for him, if he does go there, he succeeds because the Jets is a scary, scary place to have to play. Maybe while they're not successful, the media runs everybody off. Nobody wants to be there for very long. Colin, your thoughts here on this one?
Like we said last week, we may have been wrong about the Jaguars. They are looking like a really, really good team, and Trevor Lawrence is kind of looking like he should have looked his whole career at taking it number one overall. He was looking like that number one overall pick, especially this week with the five touchdowns and adding one on the ground as well. So the Jaguars just ran all over and threw all over the Jets. So And then you mentioned ETN. He really didn't have a great game on the ground. It was he had 3 catches and 3 touchdowns through the air. So anytime he touched the ball in the receiving game, it was a touchdown for them. So they might want to try and do that a little more often.
Yeah.
Pretty efficient there. So and then for the Jets, I mean, you didn't expect to win after you traded away Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams, but you are seeing with the return of Adonai Mitchell, like you said, he's having a pretty good season since he's got to New York. So that's good for the Jets. You have him, Garrett Wilson, Brees Hall, and then you're probably going to add a Mendoza in the draft. So you might have a good little offensive core moving into next year. However, you did gut your defense at the same time. So part of the reason you gave up 48 to the Jaguars here, although, like we said, the Jaguars have been rolling recently. So it kind of what you expected out of this game, but really impressive performance from Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, and quickly to add on to the Travis Etienne that you just mentioned there, back when they drafted him, they kind of got critiqued for that because they had James Robinson, if you remember James Robinson as kind of the lead rusher and the star guy there. And the rumor was Travis Etienne's not going to be our starting running back. He's going to be our starting slot receiver. That was a big talking point, and it was like Trevor Lawrence come in the room and said, I want him. Go draft him." And when you pick a guy first overall and he says, "I want somebody," you say, "Yes, sir, you can have him. Let me go get your former college teammate. He'll come in and be a receiver." So that is the game that they knew he had. He's really showed it in this one. Like you said, receiving as was the best part of his game in this one. So expect that can continue. And now he has to be the lead running back because unfortunately, a little bit of Virginia Tech news, Bashal Tutin did suffer injury in this game. So that's really unfortunate for him because he was doing really well. I think he'd scored 6 touchdowns this year. So that was awesome for a guy that, I expected a lot out of when he got to the league. Now Travis Etienne has to be the guy. You traded Tank Bigsby. Bashal Tutin's injured. It's all on Travis Etienne's shoulders now. So we'll see what he does going forward as the fully, rushing and receiving back in that offense. I think it's a role that he can take on because he's a great player. Rolling on to this next one, another team from that extremely difficult AFC South. I wouldn't have said that. I think what was week 6, we were talking about how bad it was and the Colts are going to run away with it. And now the Jaguars and the Texans look like two of the best teams in the AFC. The Texans' defense is just incredible. They arguably have the best pass rush in football. I mean, again, Myles Garrett is a game changer with the Browns, but they don't have somebody else on the other side. This one has Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter, two of the best guys getting after the quarterback. And honestly, props to Jacoby Brissett. He still played good football here. He threw for over 250 yards. He had 3 touchdowns. He did have an interception, so unfortunate there, but he still did well when he's facing what is arguably the best pass rush in all of football getting after him. So I mean, again, if you haven't seen it enough this year, the Cardinals would be dumb to start anybody but Jacoby Brissett next season. He is clearly the guy to be the quarterback for the future. Find a trade partner for Kyler Murray because Jacoby Brissett has got to get that job. Look what he is doing. Feeding Trey McBride. I mean, absolutely feeding him. 12 for 134 and 2 touchdowns, Colin. I know you love to see that stat line. It was beautiful. He did get outshined by Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts just had a little bit better day, but man, Trey McBride's performance was just up there at the top of all of fantasy football as well. And when your guy's doing that, when Jacoby Brissett is doing that, he's only making those players better. He's making Trey McBride better. He's going to make a Michael Wilson look like a playable player. He could help Marvin Harrison a ton next year when he gets into this offense. So really, really impressive from them overall to do those positive things. And then you still lost by 20 points because the Texans are so good. C.J. Stroud has one of his better passing games, 260 through the air, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. And honestly, I think the most impressive stat from this entire game is Jawar Jordan is the leading rusher. Woody Marks goes down with injury in this game. He has faced injuries in a lot of the games so far this season. He's actually been in the medical tent a lot too. It's kind of a thing I think somebody posted was like every week we get those questionable updates on Yahoo Fantasy of Woody Marks is questionable to return. Well, Jawar Jordan has an awesome game. 15 carries, 101 yards from a guy that I personally did not know much about going into that game. So, man, when you get that kind of performance from your third string running back, because if you remember, Nick Chubb was the guy prior to Woody Marks taking over, you can't beat that, man. That's really, really impressive, and it's great to see if you're a Texans fan because now that you have the injuries to Chubb and Woody Marks, you still have somebody you can rely on. In the receiving game, Nico Collins was a superstar for the Texans. 3 catches, 85 yards, 2 touchdowns. And Dalton Schultz said, I'm not going to get outdueled too bad. Now, Trey McBride is clearly the better player, but he went 76 on 8 catches and a touchdown himself. So great game from him. And overall, man, you see why this Texans team would be really scary to run into in the playoffs. Colin, your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, another really impressive win for the Texans, and the defense. They did give up 20, which is not great, but this is one of the best defenses in the NFL, if not the best defense in the NFL. And I think that's a huge reason that the Texans were able to hold on throughout the year whenever they had Davis Mills starting at quarterback, and C.J. Stroud struggled a little bit at the beginning of the year. So. This defense has been huge for the Texans. And again, kind of what you expected here. The Texans have been playing really, really good as of late, and the Cardinals are just not a very good team. So, but overall, a really good win for them. And like you said, with Jawar Jordan, I had no idea this guy even existed before this game, and he goes out and he puts on a great performance. So, good for him. And then C.J. Stroud, you're kind of starting to see him go back into his rookie season form.
Yeah.
He struggled last year a little bit, and then you're starting to see him play much, much better. So that's a really positive sign if you're a Texans fan moving forward. You can get a good offense with rookie C.J. Stroud, and then that on top of that, really, really good defense. There'll be a tough, tough team to play in the playoffs. And then for the Cardinals, like you mentioned, Jacoby Brissett, once again, really good performance. And he keeps feeding Trey McBride. So keep Jacoby Brissett in there, please. I did 2 more weeks and I'll be fantasy champion. So he was my savior as well as Amon-Ra St. Brown. We'll get into that later.
Yeah.
So huge game for him. And he's had a really impressive year. He's leading all tight ends in receiving yards by like 200 yards. So
Yeah.
it's not even close.
Yeah.
So he's pretty much a receiver out there, though he's not the best in the blocking game, but when
Yeah.
he's having putting up those type of numbers, you don't really care. So good season from him, and then I think Jacoby Brissett has earned his way into another starting quarterback position. So good for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you are the Cardinals, I mean, you're probably going to field calls on both Brissett and Kyler Murray just to see what the offers look like. And maybe if you get some crazy offer for Brissett, you would take it instead just because Kyler Murray's younger. But it just seems like he's more of a project and he's faced injuries. How many times in his career now? Jacoby Brissett has been here all year. He's getting hit every week because he ain't much of a scrambler, and he's still out there standing back and making plays and getting the ball out to his guys. And it's not his fault at all that they're losing games like this. The offense can score points. They don't have much of a rushing attack, and they don't have a good defense at all, and they're still been in some games lately. So I expect he'll be the future. Like you said, it's feeding those young players and making them better is also a big thing for a front office. Moving into this next one here, kind of just to start at the top with the biggest news. Micah Parsons done for the season. He has torn his ACL. It is extremely sad to see that is happening around the league, but also to happen to a team that was making this big push. For the Chiefs, it's Patrick Mahomes, and it really sucks that he goes down, but their season was over. And so, yeah, it hurts a lot, but maybe he can even get back and be healthy for when he could, potentially play again next year. You lose Micah Parsons, and you're going to be in the playoffs more than likely. That's a huge, huge loss. I mean, you lost what was the key piece of that defense, and you traded away one of your better defensive players to get him when you made that trade. So now you don't have anything to fill in for when he goes out. So I can't really put the Packers in Super Bowl conversations anymore personally, just because you can't get after quarterbacks the same way without that kind of player out there. You kind of see that in this game, the score got run up on them on their defense. So you need a guy like him out there to make plays. I think Bo Nix, I think one of the analysts after the game kind of said, what Bo Nix did in this game is what tore his ACL. And he said, I'm not trying to say Bo Nix hurt him. Don't take it like that. He's saying Bo Nix is so hard to bring down. Because if you watch Bo Nix, man, he moves in the pocket. Now, he's not like a Lamar Jackson type of super fast runner, but he is insanely hard to tackle. I mean, he breaks out of sacks all the time. He'll juke you out when you're not expecting it. And that's what happened is he took a little jab step, fake backwards, and so Parsons took a false step, and his knee just gone. It just went. And that was the play that pretty much ended this game, too. It sealed it because once you didn't have Micah, it was just easier for the Broncos to keep the ball in their possession and also score points. But overall, again, look at the statistics. To start on the Packers side, the team that lost here, not a good game from Jordan Love in the interception category. Throws 2 of them. Does have 276 yards and a touchdown through the air, but you can't throw 2 interceptions to this defense. They are going to get enough stops if you give them stops, if you hand them the ball. So just not a great game from him. Josh Jacobs does have a really good game. 12 carries for 73 yards and a touchdown. You probably want to get him the ball a little bit more if possible, especially in an 8-point game. You would hope that he is the guy that can kind of close it for you, especially because at some points in this game you had a lead and you ended up blowing it. You look down at the receiving core, they have another injury. We talked about it last week, but there's injury concerns across the board. Now Christian Watson is facing injury, goes down hard on his shoulder. There goes your wide receiver one, who had kind of stepped up in a big way since the Tucker Kraft injury. And Matthew Golden maybe can break out. He didn't have a bad game, but you just don't have a wide receiver one now. And without without your star pass rusher, now you're without your star potential star receiver. You're without your tight end, who's going to be done for the rest of the year. It just seems like all things have kind of fell apart for the Packers, and they're still 9-4, and they're still going to make the playoffs. So it's not the worst thing ever, but it does suck that this is all happening going into the playoffs. Now on the Denver side of things, Bo Nix was really, really good in this game. 302 yards, 4 touchdowns. Just an impressive game from him overall. He also brings rushing upside. Now, he didn't do it too much in this game, but the plays like I'm talking about where he moves around the pocket and makes things happen, that's what makes him so hard to bring down as a quarterback. RJ Harvey has done a decent job taking over as the lead back with the J.K. Dobbins injury. 65 yards and a touchdown in this game. Not an incredible day by any means, but when your quarterback throws for 300 yards and makes plays the way he was, and your defense is getting those interceptions, you don't have to be the greatest running back ever. Cortland Sutton was awesome in this game. He was also a part of my fantasy lineup in that championship, or in the semifinal, I should say. 7 for 113 and a touchdown is just really, really good. Also, Troy Franklin does great in this game. 6 for 85 and a touchdown. So overall, really good performance from the Broncos offense, and the defense is able to force turnovers and just win this football game in a close one. Kind of seems like that's what they always do, is win these close football games. It's only going to help them when they get into the playoffs and they play a lot of these close games. I think it's now official too that they are the 1 seed overall with that Patriots loss. So they sit in a very good spot to potentially grab that bye week in the first round of the playoffs, which you really want in the NFL. It's just that extra bye week that helps you out to plan for who your opponent could potentially be. Calling your thoughts here.
Yeah, huge win for the Broncos here. Like we said going into the week, this could possibly be a Super Bowl matchup. I don't really see that with the Packers now. I still have my doubts about Jordan Love, and you kind of saw that this week, which is Broncos defense is really good at forcing turnovers and getting after the quarterback, but Jordan Love just really doesn't have anyone to throw the ball to right now. Christian Watson had been playing pretty good, and then I think he got injured in this game. So when he's out, that in the Tucker Kraft injury, they really just don't have anyone to throw the ball to. So that's kind of unfortunate for the Packers. You did see Josh Jacobs catch a touchdown, so I guess that was good for them. Maybe use him in the receiving game some. He might be your best option at receiver at the moment. So yeah, like you said, you might want to get Josh Jacobs the ball a little more, which it's kind of tough whenever you are playing from behind to run the ball. But you kind of saw the Bills were able to do it, so maybe try and use that formula moving forward. But overall, the Bo Nix, he played a really good game. This was probably his best game of the year, and it comes at a really clutch time. I think Bo Nix, like we've said, is a really clutch quarterback. Him and Baker, two of the most clutch quarterbacks in the NFL. And like I've said all year, I think this is huge for the Broncos playing in all these close games. Once you get to playoff time, you've been there pretty much every game of the year. So I think that'll be huge for them in the playoffs whenever they're in those close games that are coming down to the wire. I think the Broncos will probably be favorites in those games because pretty much every game they've played in all year has been close. So yeah, overall, a good win for the Broncos here. Kind of disappointing for the Packers. Packers, they'll be fine. I have some concerns with them and their offense moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's again what knocks me down a notch on them as a title contender is just they don't have the pieces anymore. They don't have the stars to go to, and now they lack that defensive force that was Micah Parsons, who you're not going to expect him to be back for probably the beginning of the year next year either. So he'll miss some games then. So could be a long term effect on this team as a whole. Moving on to this next one here. Two NFC teams that are likely going to be pretty big up on in the Super Bowl potential board as the season started, and now the Rams have kind of really put themselves in that conversation. But if you're the Lions, you're getting kind of worried. 8-6 is not surely in the playoffs by any means, and there's a lot of teams fighting for that last playoff spot. So you better start winning football games, and you better start doing it now you got to probably win at least two of these last three games, and you probably want to win all three of them to just surefire get yourself in the playoffs. So that's a worrying thing. You look at the statistics for the Lions. Jared Goff has a really good day, 338 and three touchdowns through the air, no interceptions. This is all you could really ask for from him in the passing game. And like you said with Amon-Ra St. Brown, man, holy cow, 13 catches, 164 yards, two touchdowns. I mean, not to be overshadowed by Puka there because he found the end zone twice and Puka wasn't able to. But man, that is just unbelievable from Amon-Ra St. Brown. And then you stack on top of that Jameson Williams, 7 catches, 134 yards, and a touchdown. So they have two guys go over 130 yards in this game. It almost looked like when we had CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens really rolling earlier in the year with Dak Prescott. That's kind of the performance that reminds you of. Big issue here is they have no run game at all. The Rams completely shut that down. They averaged 3.5 yards per carry, but Gibbs is only averaging 2.9. So really, really impressive from that Rams defense, and I think that defensive front is one of the best in all of football, especially the interior offense or the interior of the defensive line, helping out the exterior and the pass rushers. So great, great performance from them. You go look at the Rams. That's all you need to know right there at the top of the board for you. That's your superstar players. That is Matthew Stafford, who I think may be now the MVP frontrunner with the not so great game from Drake May. Kyron Williams, 15 carries, 78 yards, two touchdowns, and then Puka Nacua catches 181 of those 368 passing yards from Matthew Stafford. Doesn't catch either of the two touchdowns, but man, 9 catches, 181 yards. He's nearly at 200 yards on the day. It's just really, really impressive from him. One of the bigger stories from them is the fact that they are going to be without Davante Adams more than likely for the rest of the regular season. He is definitely going to miss this upcoming week. I mean, it's a hamstring injury. That is a lingering injury that just doesn't disappear. But if he misses more time, that could be a huge blow to them because when they get to the red zone, he's the threat. He's the one that catches the passes, the touchdowns. And in this game, they had to switch it up and go to Colby Parkinson. So Colby Parkinson is the one that makes the plays down the red zone instead of Davante Adams. He has 75 yards, two touchdowns. So overall, really good day from the Rams offense. You'd like to see better in the passing game, but they shut down a really electric Lions rushing attack and just had enough to get it done. Your thoughts here?
Yeah, really just a fun game to watch overall. Both offenses were really rolling. The Lions, you really can't ask for too much more from that offense. I mean, they did pretty much all they could do in this one to maybe get a little bit more out of the run game, like you said. But this really is on their defense, which the Rams do have probably the best offense in the NFL right now, at least as of late. They've really been rolling. So the Lions, they were probably my Super Bowl favorite going into the season, and still a fun team to watch. But they've just lost some really unfortunate games for them here recently. So they do have some concerns about even making the playoffs at this point. So that's really the NFC is, in my opinion, loaded this year. So that'll be interesting to see if the Lions are able to scrape their way to the playoffs. And then Matthew Stafford, he just does what he's done all year: 368 yards and two touchdowns. Puka Nacua and Davante Adams, which Davante Adams, I don't believe had a great game. Well, he had 4 catches, 71 yards. So not a terrible game, but he wasn't able to find the end zone there. Those two receivers between Puka and Davante Adams, two of the toughest to guard in the NFL. You kind of, like you said, with Amon-Ra and Jameson Williams, when those two are going, really tough to guard as well. So these two teams are somewhat similar. The big difference here was the Rams were able to get going on the ground and the Lions were not. So kind of the difference in this one. But after the game, Dan Campbell said now the Lions know what the best in the NFC looks like. So they'll know how to prepare for them if they are to make the playoffs.
Yep, and they are right on the border right now, currently sitting outside the playoffs, chasing down a couple different teams, Packers being one of them. So how much will those injuries affect the Packers? Can that help the Lions catch them? It'll be interesting to see what happens down the stretch. Going to look at this next one here, we talked about it earlier. Buccaneers, you had your opportunity to pull away from the Panthers because they weren't able to get it done. And honestly, what a game from the Saints. The second half, they pick it up, they figure things out, and they're able to get it done. Tyler Shuck gets them in the position to kick a game-winning field goal, and that kick goes right through the uprights. If you ask me right now who I think has shown themselves as a star quarterback, or not a star, but a potential starter moving forward, I'd say Tyler Shuck. The guy's looked really good. He's 24 for 32 in this one, 272 and a touchdown. He showed you his rushing upside earlier in the season. He had a couple games where he was a high level rusher. So Tyler Shuck to me has absolutely gave himself an opportunity to be the starter of the New Orleans Saints next year. I think they're off the board as a team to pick a quarterback. And talk about clutch. Hey, the game-winning drive was Tyler Shuck, getting them in that field goal range and was able to get it done. As you can see there, Chris Olave was the lead receiver in this game. Has a good one. It's really not that hard. Target the best player on your team, and it's going to work out for you. He did that, 6 for 85 and a touchdown. And then the rushing attack, here's the big issue and the problem that happened in this game. Devin Neal is also now injured. So Alvin Kamara is hurt, and now Devin Neal is hurt, unfortunately. He was having a good game. He had 30 yards and a touchdown early in that one. So that sucks because Devin Neal had looked really good. They now have to go to Audric Estime as the likely lead running back who had just got cut by the Broncos. And of course, if you remember, Estime was really good at Notre Dame in college, kind of a big brawler, big bruiser type of running back. So we'll see what they do. They'll see if they try to get him going on the ground next week. But I think it's going to be heavier in targeting Chris Olave and targeting just Devon Vele and letting Tyler Shuck go on the ground because the rushing attack just won't be there without their guys. On the Panthers side of things, Bryce Young, okay game, 163 and a touchdown, no interceptions, but not enough to get it done. The rushing attack, Dowdle was the lead guy, and then Bryce Young also had 50 yards on the ground. So overall, not a bad day running the ball, but not good enough to get it done. And then Jalen Coker is the lead receiver because of the injury to Tataroa McMillan, so that's concerning. If you are the Panthers, man, you had an opportunity to pull away from the Buccaneers, get you a little bit of a lead, and then you didn't have to win both of those games at the end of the year. Now you need to do that because you and the Buccaneers are tied. So neither team wants to win that division, apparently. Colin, your thoughts here?
Yeah, the Saints aren't going to make it easy on either of these teams as they just beat the Buccaneers. Now they beat the Panthers, so they're not going to let either of those teams pull away from each other. Tyler Shuck, I think, has absolutely played his way into being a starter next year for the Saints, at least given a shot to start for the Saints at the beginning of the year. He's, I think, three of their four wins this year have been with him at quarterback, and that wasn't even given a chance to start until late in the year. So, and then they've won back-to-back games against the two division leaders. So that's a good sign for the Saints moving forward. If they're able to get any rush game at all next year, they've struggled in the run game, even with Kamara there, like you've said. Kamara's never had a 1,000-yard rushing season in his career. So which is just really unbelievable. There for a little while, he was one of the best running backs in the NFL, which he's able to get it going through the air. So, and then the Panthers, just a really disappointing loss. You're playing the Saints, which have obviously struggled this year, and you're hoping to pull away from the Buccaneers who lost this week, and you're just unable to do it. Really disappointing for them. And Bryce Young, he did not have his best game. He didn't throw any interceptions, threw for one touchdown, but just the McMillan injury was brutal for them. So disappointing for the Panthers and positive signs for the Saints moving forward into next year.
And last but not least, a quick stat I wanted to add on the end of that there is Tyler Shuck, two of his best games he's played all year long. He has been an absolute thorn in the side of the Carolina Panthers, throwing for 282 yards the first time they played him and beat them. And then he throws for 272 yards and a touchdown this time and beats them. Arguably the two best games of his career so far. So maybe he is going to be really difficult for the Panthers to face in the near future in that division. Moving on to this next one here. The Titans taking on the 49ers in what was not the best game ever to watch. If you happen to see at one point, this game was 35-10, and the Titans were getting beat up on pretty bad. We just aren't a very good football team, so that's what happens when you go up against the Niners, who are very well coached and have a good team. To start with the Niners, Brock Purdy looked really good in this game, 23 for 30, 295 yards, 3 touchdowns through the air. Maybe his best game since coming back from injury, so really impressive from him. But again, it is against that Titans secondary, which unfortunately is just not very good. Ricky Pearsall has an awesome game, so that's really good. That is actually super positive because he just hasn't been able to get going since that injury. So good to get him back to being their guy on the outside. Juwan Jennings is healthy now, which is also huge because he goes 3 for 37 and finds the end zone twice. He is a good red zone threat that Brock Purdy likes to go to a lot, and in this game he's able to find him. And then of course George Kittle. he is a staple of the 49ers offense. He is the best run blocking tight end in the NFL, and he's probably one of the best pass catchers, 8 for 88 and a touchdown himself. So I think he had a couple fun quotes after the game, kind of making jokes at Purdy. He was like, "Man, he played good today. Need that more out of Purdy." Just kind of cracking jokes at him, saying that Brock has to do this all the time. So he has done that a lot in his career. So really, really impressive from him. On the Titans side of things, really nice to see Tony Pollard go 14 for 104, having another great rushing game. Maybe he can be your running back moving forward. I was almost pushing to get him out the door. I was pushing it hard at the beginning of the year after those first couple games, and just go trade him. He's just not a good piece for you. And now the last two games he's looked incredible. So I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that the offensive line is playing way better, and that's huge because it's going to help Cam Ward look better, and that he did in this game. 18 for 29, 170 yards, 2 touchdowns. So those statistics, they don't pop off the page and look incredible, but that's a pretty good day from him. But you dive even deeper into this, and you see that one of his 2 touchdown passes is to Jeffrey Simmons in the back of the end zone on what was a busted play. Cam Ward fakes the handoff, bootlegs out to the right, and it's supposed to be, a play to Jeffrey Simmons, who's lined up, and then it's blown up. The play's not going to work, and Cam Ward makes something out of nothing. He's running around the backfield. Nobody's open. This is the worst, most concerning part. Jeffrey Simmons is the guy who works back across the field and gets open in the back of the end zone, and Cam Ward, boom, off the back foot, throws it to Jeffrey Simmons, and he catches it for a touchdown. I mean, out of all people on our team, he realized, oh, I'm not open. Let me go get an open space. Our receivers don't ever do that. They just stand there. Oh well, the play's over. And Jeffrey Simmons is the one that goes and gets it. It just doesn't make any sense. It just shows you the lack of receivers that the Titans have right now. It's a really desperate need on this offense. I'd almost argue at pick 3, you could pick one of those top tier receivers if you stay there, just because of the desperate need at that position. But overall, good day from Cam Ward. He doesn't, look incredible again, but he did a lot of good things in this game. Scoring 24 points against the Niners of all teams is pretty impressive. Gunnar Helm has a great day, 4 for 49 and a touchdown. A really good ball from Cam Ward to get Gunnar Helm in the end zone. One of my favorite passes he made during that game. And then Chimere Dike did his thing again in the return game. I think he's not going to break that scrimmage yards record, but if he has some crazy game like he had earlier in the year, he could chase it down. I think it's a surefire fact that Chimere Dike is the best returner in football, though. I think he should absolutely be the all-pro guy at that position, and I think Jeffrey Simmons should be an all-pro guy on defense. So those are good building blocks to have moving forward for the future of the Titans, and it was really positive to see some good things from Cam Ward, some of those receivers, especially the tight end and Gunnar Helm, who will likely be our starter next year. But man, do we need someone else to just work back to the ball and get open like Jeffrey Simmons did, which is just, again, hilarious that's who did it in this game. Colin, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, once again, kind of what you're expecting out of this one. Like you said, the 35 to 10 at one point or something around that. So impressive win for the 49ers. Brock Purdy played really well, like you said, probably his best game since he came back. But at the same time, you're going against that Titan secondary that's put together with a bunch of undrafted free agents. So you always like to see your quarterback play well, but at the same time, you want to see him play well against really good competition. But I mean, hey, they're playing the Titans, and you played well, so can't really ask for too much more there. So, but for the Titans, honestly, that's back-to-back games of Tony Pollard really getting going. So that's really good sign for the Titans. And then Cam Ward, he had 2 touchdowns, no interceptions as well. So not a bad game from him. One of his better games so far this year. Good for the Titans offense there. You'd like to see a little bit more from that defense, but at the same time, what can you do with the secondary that they're playing with right now? So this season obviously has been a wash for the Titans, but you still want to see Cam Ward play well and some positive signs, and I think you're seeing that towards the end of the year. They picked up a win last week against the Browns, and this week they fight back a little bit against the 49ers after getting down big. So that's exactly what you want to see as a Titans fan. And then, like you mentioned, it's unfortunate that Jeffrey Simmons is the guy working to get open in the end zone for the Titans, not one of your receivers. So that's definitely going to be something they need to address in the offseason to get Cam Ward a few more weapons. And I think they have the draft capital and the cap space to do something big for him, and I hope they're able to get that done.
Yeah, and yeah, you mentioned the cap space. That's going to be one of the biggest things the Titans have. In the NFL, if you don't know, you get to carry over cap space. The Titans left $30 million to carry over into the next season, so that carryover money is going to be a big deal. The Titans are looking like they're going to have over $100 million in cap space. I mean, you float that around and try to sign any big name guy you can get. I don't know what exactly the free agent market looks like, but unfortunately, football is one of the sports that keeps a lot of the free agents. A lot of the guys stay. It's not like the NBA where there's superstars moving all the time, so it is harder to do that. But maybe the way you do it is by facilitating a trade with someone. You go find a team that has a disgruntled lead receiver. I don't know who you could call. Maybe you want to call the Jets and see if they want to trade Garrett Wilson or something like that and try to get a player like that from someone else and then re-sign them, give them a contract extension when they get there with that money you have. So it'd be interesting to see what the Titans do, and I think they're in a good spot for the future potentially because I think they have their quarterback. I know they have a cornerstone on defense, and they have one of the best returners in the league that they draft in the fourth round. So Borgonzi, I have to trust him. I think he's going to do a good job at hopefully building this back up. It's just going to take some time. Moving on to this next one here, Colts, Seahawks, and that hot take that was made what 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago now that the Colts would not win another game and miss the playoffs. It's seeming like it could come true. They have not won since I brought up that take. They have not looked very good at all. But this game, unfortunately, was one of the better games that they had played. They play the Seahawks, who have been one of the best teams in the NFC, into an 18-16 loss. And it came down to a 56-yard field goal from Jason Myers, who scores every single point for the Seahawks in this game with 5 field goals, or six field goals? Yeah, 6 field goals. Did everything he could do to give them a chance to win. And Philip Rivers kind of had some flashy moments on that drive, got him in that field goal range, and everybody thought, man, they've got it. They're going to do it with the old man, and then just wasn't enough. He clearly isn't, he's not in football shape right now. He threw for 120 yards. He had a touchdown, but he also had a bad interception on that final drive. He was just trying to force the ball down the field. That's kind of what you have to do when you need a field goal with less than a minute left. But overall, it doesn't look like the Colts are going to make the playoffs, which is crazy because the way they were playing was, I mean, they were the best team in the NFL for a little bit. Jonathan Taylor didn't have a bad day, goes for nearly 90 rushing yards, but he was kept in check. He wasn't allowed to just go all over the place and go for that 200-yard game. And that's what you have to do if you want to beat the Colts. The Seahawks have a good enough defense. On the side for the Seahawks, Sam Darnold, 270 yards. No touchdowns, no interceptions. So pretty good day from him. Just wasn't able to find the end zone. The rushing attack was not good at all. They did not do much at all on the ground. But Jackson Smith and Jigba and Rashid Shaheed, two of the most important pieces of this team. Shaheed, of course, a trade deadline addition. Smith and Jigba goes 7 for 113, and Rashid Shaheed goes 5 for 74. So really good day from the receivers. You just got to find the end zone if you want to win a big game. In this one, the field goals were enough. Absolutely, Jason Myers gets the game ball for this performance he had. Colin, your thoughts?
It was really fun to watch Philip Rivers play.
Yeah,
Obviously, he was not in football shape. You saw him dancing around the pocket and kind of falling around.
yeah,
Fun to watch, but unfortunate for the Colts. Really, they had such a great start. I mean, they were almost a lock for the playoffs at one point, and then it's really just all falling apart here at the end of the year. Even when Daniel Jones was healthy there, they were still not playing very good. So unfortunate there for the Colts, and I'm kind of curious if like Riley Leonard is injured because like, I didn't see enough from Philip Rivers at 44 to warrant him the automatic starter for next week, which they've already announced. He didn't play bad, but I feel like Riley Leonard, you might get the same arm talent, but also you get a little bit of rushing upside, which you are getting absolutely none of with Philip Rivers right now.
yeah.
Interesting decision there from the Colts, in my opinion, as they still have a shot to make the playoffs. It's becoming more and more unlikely, but there's still a chance there. So there'll be it'll be fun to watch Philip Rivers move forward, obviously. And then for the Seahawks, Jason Myers, he is leading the NFL in points. He has 153 points this year. The second closest is 133. So it's not even close right now. He was leading before this week even started, and now he's just adding to his lead. So you want to see the Seahawks get into the end zone, obviously, if you're a Seahawks fan and you don't want to see your kicker leading the NFL in points by 20 points. But at the same time, you get a win, and this defense played really good, which you would kind of expect against with what the Colts are dealing with right now, and how good the Seahawks defense has been. So a good win for the Seahawks, but you want to see them get in the end zone.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to win a playoff game, you're going to have to find the end zone probably. So we'll see what happens. I think that they're going to figure it out. And the Colts, I mean, if I was putting my money on it now, I'd say they're going to miss the playoffs, which is just absurd. I mean, I think they were 7-1 at one point. Then they went on to be an 8-2. Now they've lost four straight games. So yeah, it just can't happen. You can't do that as a team, and it just seems like things are falling all apart for them. Moving on to this next one here, another team that has pretty much lost their playoff hopes in the Dallas Cowboys, who drop a game to the Minnesota Vikings, and our concerns about that defense, they are back. This is a really bad performance against Nine, who finally looked like a good quarterback. 250 passing yards, two touchdowns, does still have the one interception. He is still prone to making mistakes, something he's done a lot of in his career so far. But 34 points is plenty to get you a win. Great job by this offense, able to just get up and down the field. The rushing attack wasn't incredible, but McCarthy did add a touchdown on the ground. So did the fullback and C.J. Ham. So that's impressive from him finding the end zone on a 1 yard carry. But overall, I mean, Hawkinson, Addison, Naylor, Jones, all four more receiving yards than Justin Jefferson. How does Justin Jefferson not have more receiving yards? If you are J.J. McCarthy, you have to find your best player. Let him get the ball in his hands and make plays. It's concerning that he hasn't been able to do that early on because the rumor was that he was backup proof that Justin Jefferson couldn't be bad. So, again, so far he's had some pretty rough weeks. On the other side, Dak Prescott throws for nearly 300 yards, but never finds the end zone through the air. Javonte Williams did suffer some injuries throughout that game, and so he was kind of in and out. But when he was in there, he was great. 91 yards for a touchdown as well. Catches a few passes, but just not the best day from that Cowboys defense. That's really what cost them the game. Is just I mean, embarrassing, honestly, to give up 34 points to this Vikings offense that hadn't been able to move the ball, really. You look down at the receiving, CeeDee Lamb was the guy, 6 for 111. Flanoy had a pretty good game there, 4 for 40. Pickens only comes in at 3 for 33. So, again, you had the lack of effort. You brought it up. It finally happened. And now that they seem like they're not going to be a playoff team, you see the lack of effort potentially in that game. So, concerns there with Pickens. Lamb, I know, is dealing with a sickness this week in practice, hasn't practiced yet as of today. We're filming, of course, on Wednesday, so no practice yet, and that's a concerning thing as well. I think there's still like a crazy outside chance they can make the playoffs, but it's not going to happen here. And it just seems like the Dallas Cowboys are going to be eliminated after that little bit of a run that they had. Just not enough on this defense, and I don't know what they have to do in the offseason. They got to figure out how to get George Pickens back on contract. He has to come back. If not, Titans. Maybe you want to go give him a bunch of money. And then defensively, you've got a lot of holes to fill. So they need to address those things. Big win for the Vikings morale wise, and the Cowboys' playoff hopes are basically over. Colin, your thoughts?
Yeah, good performance by J.J. McCarthy. You obviously want to see him get the ball to Justin Jefferson more. Going back to earlier in the year when Joe Flacco's first game with the Bengals, what did he do to find success? He threw the ball to Jamar Chase, the best receiver on that team.
Yep.
And I think that's something that J.J. McCarthy could do, especially in times when he's finding it difficult to get anyone open. Just throw it to your best receiver. He's usually going to be open. I think moving forward, J.J. McCarthy should try to get the ball to Jefferson a little bit more, and he might have a little bit more success there. And then for the Cowboys, you were kind of hoping, or if you're a Cowboys fan, you were hoping, not me, but that they would be able to make a little late season push to make the playoffs, but that's just not going to happen at this point. So, unfortunate for them. They made some moves there at the trade deadline, and they just weren't enough for that defense. So, like you said, it'll be interesting to see what the Cowboys do with George Pickens. It seems like anytime he's double covered, he just jogs his route. So maybe one way to guard him is just disguise double coverage to him, and then he's not going to run his route. So, that's kind of what Pittsburgh saw concerns with him. That's why they traded him away, and it made him look stupid at the beginning of the year. But you're kind of starting to see that now, especially now the Cowboys are out of the playoffs. So I think he is obviously a super talented receiver, one of the most talented receivers in the NFL, and he could be really, really good. It's just the attitude issues and lack of effort that you occasionally get from him.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's something that a player can fix. That's something he could fix on his own. It's not, he doesn't have the lack of talent. He doesn't have, like, it just, things that's what upsets you with certain guys. It's just like that's something you could handle, you could do better, and unfortunately Pickens has kind of let back up and not done as well the last couple weeks. So we'll see what happens. I think his market's going to be very interesting because what teams will want to give him a ton of money. I think a team like the Titans is one that would be willing to do it and just deal with the issues because they don't have a receiver. But is somebody like the Cowboys willing to give him all that money? And they have a receiver, they have a superstar. They don't need a superstar. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens. He's going to be a big name in the market, potentially in free agency. Moving down to this last one here, Monday Night Football. I know Colin loves to see the Steelers playing Monday Night Football because they are very, very good when they play in Acrisure Stadium, of course, Heinz Field. But when they play there, that winning streak is now 23 straight. Man, that is incredible. Home games on Monday Night Football, you better just throw all your money on it and bet Steelers. I don't know how they'd ever be the underdog in those kinds of games. And then you kind of see the fire was lit under Aaron Rodgers. And that is what I wanted to see from Aaron Rodgers. Again, this is a quarterback that I love. He is one of my favorite quarterbacks all time. I have him inside my top five all time. I think he is one of the single best quarterbacks to ever step on the football field. And in this game, he shows you why. 23 for 27, 224 yards, two touchdowns, no interceptions. Great game from him. He's able to kind of get the ball out to a couple different guys. Metcalf, Gainwell catches a ton of passes. Freiermuth, that's just a really fun passing attack, honestly. The meme I sent Colin that was absolutely hilarious is Tony Stark sitting at his desk messing with Jarvis, trying to figure out what to do. And it says Arthur Smith when he's got to figure out how to get Marquez Valdes-Scantling the ball once to keep Aaron Rodgers happy, figure out how to get DK Metcalf the ball to keep DK Metcalf happy, and then somehow toss in a Jonnu Smith pitch play so he can go running up the sideline. Now, also to add on to that, me as a Titans fan, Jonnu Smith, one of my favorite players when he was with the Titans, he had a highlight play, if you go watch his highlight reel, of a pitch play to Jonnu Smith, and he goes, boom, gone. See ya, 60 yards, not to the house. He does get hawked down because he is a tight end, but huge play, and they were kind of like, well, where'd that come from? Arthur Smith has got some tricks in the little bag he has, and Jonnu Smith, that's probably why they wanted him for plays like that. So one of the most, I guess, athletic and top end speed tight ends in the NFL, even as he's a little bit older now than he was with the Titans. But their offense was really fun to watch. And honestly, I bet that was so relieving as a Steelers fan is you got to watch fun offense. And they have had a lot of games where they've had ugly offense and just had such good defense that it didn't matter. And so that's what makes the Steelers team, I think scarier in a playoff situation because they have playoff experience and now they have an offense that could actually do something and get you some points. For the Dolphins, to quickly add on there, Tua Tagovailoa honestly didn't play horrible. 22 for 28, 253 yards, two touchdowns, and interception. But he is no longer the starter of the Miami Dolphins. He has been benched for Quinn Ewers, and on top of that, he's been moved down to the third string quarterback. So it seems like it's over. The Miami Dolphins Tua Tagovailoa experience has come to an end, and I don't know if that'll be at the end of the year they trade him, at the end of the year they cut him because they have an ability to get out of that contract with not as much dead space on the cap. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I think Tua could potentially even retire. I think he could hang it up and finish his career here because of the injury concerns. Devon Achane, 12 for 60 on the ground, has now his own injury concerns and could potentially miss the next game, which would kill you if you have him in playoffs for fantasy football because he was their leading receiver and their leading rusher. And then Darren Waller finds the end zone twice, 7 for 66. He was the other guy in that offense. That's about all they have because once Tyreek Hill went down, Jalen Waddle's kind of not been great as the outside receiver, and that's about it for the Dolphins. They were shut down pretty much most of this game by that Pittsburgh defense. And man, Aaron Rodgers, again, somebody lit a fire under him and got him going, and it looks really good that the Steelers could potentially end up winning this division, get in the playoffs, and be a scary team to face for somebody. Colin, your thoughts here?
Yeah, this was the most complete game that this team's played. It was 28-3 going early into the fourth quarter, and then they get into that kind of prevent defense that doesn't prevent anything.
No.
They're just trying to not give up a huge play. And interestingly enough, that's when they gave up the longest play of the game for the Dolphins, was in that prevent defense. So that's my only complaint for this game. You didn't get up 28-3 playing prevent defense, so I don't know why you moved to it at the end of the game. But overall, like I said, most complete game that this team's played. You really Tua before before they moved into that prevent defense, he was 6 for 10 with the interception. So he really had not played good. And then they switched their defense, and then he kind of pads his stats there at the end of the game. So I think that's kind of what they saw as far as benching him. So his stats don't look terrible, but he really did not play that good. And then the Dolphins, like their biggest critique when the temperature is under 40 degrees, they just do not win. They do not
Yeah.
win games. And it was kind of interesting. I was curious to see with all these stats, the Dolphins don't win games when it's under 40 degrees. The Steelers are 1-10 without TJ Watt, but they've also won 22 straight Monday Night Football games. So I was kind of which of these are going to give? And it was the TJ Watt record. So now they're 2-10 without TJ Watt, which hopefully he gets back healthy. Obviously, he's not the same player he was a couple years ago, but he's still a really good player that you're going to need moving forward. So hopefully he gets healthy. As far as the offense goes, Aaron Rodgers, he was still able to rip it. Two of his throws to DK Metcalf, especially the one on the touchdown, which was a heck of a play by DK Metcalf. He kind of manhandled Minka, which was I still like Minka, but it was
Yeah.
good to see. So he played really well. DK did as well as Aaron Rodgers. And then, in my opinion, the best pickup that the Steelers got this offseason was Kenneth Gainwell. They got him for the pretty much the league minimum. I think he's 1 year, 1.5 million. And he's honestly kind of taken over the lead back role over Jalen Warren at this point, which Jalen Warren was dealing with illness this game. But 13 carries for 80 yards, and then he adds a ton in the pass game. So that's really good to see. Good to see for the Steelers that Kenneth Gainwell can kind of be a two-dimensional back. And then as far as the defense goes, they were able to get after Tua, like I said, without TJ Watt, and then it was 28-3 going in early in the fourth quarter. So I was really concerned with the defense, especially with how well Achane has ran the ball all year, which he averaged I think right at 5 yards a carry, 5 or 6 yards a carry. So he still didn't have a terrible game, but they were able to limit him pretty well. So like I said, most complete performance for the Steelers all year, and I love to see it moving into the end of the season.
Yeah, and quickly, last thing I have to shout out here. What about the Hayward brothers? Uh,
Yeah,
Cam Hayward getting in the backfield and getting a sack, and Connor Hayward finding the end zone.
yeah,
So
two rushing touchdowns from the tight ends there.
yeah, yes, that is Arthur Smith in exactly how you would expect him to score. I mean, maybe it makes sense why the Steelers went out and got as many tight ends as possible on this roster. I mean, they have four playable tight ends right now because I mean, we didn't mention Connor Hayward much, but he's not bad. I mean, he's a good blocking
Yeah,
tight end, and
the tush push specialist.
yes, the tush push specialist. Keep Aaron Rodgers out there. He goes and stands back there and does this.
Which I will also add that I think the Steelers behind obviously the Eagles have one of the better tush pushes with
Yeah.
Darnell Washington pushing at 6'7", 300 pounds. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean he's literally a offensive lineman pushing you in
yeah,
the end zone, so it is really beneficial to have that back there. We'll roll on into our schedule for this next week here, and just start it right off here with Thursday Night Football on Prime. This should be a really fun game. We've seen this one once. The Rams going on the road to take on Seattle, and this one should be, again be a very very good game. You see this ticket price being pretty high to get into Lumen Field, and who knows, it could be raining, it could be snowing. I don't know how cold it is up in Seattle right now, but should be an interesting environment. I do know that I trust the LA Rams in any game they play in, especially with Matthew Stafford, who I think is, again, a MVP frontrunner. And he's played in cold, and he's played in bad environments. He played with the Detroit Lions, and so, again, they have Ford Field, but they've played with, going to Green Bay, playing in Lambeau, and they've gone to these super cold locations, Soldier Field, playing the Bears. So he's played in that kind of weather. I have no concerns that he can handle it, even though he is a little bit older now. So again, it could be shakier on them old bones, but I think that Matthew Stafford is the best quarterback in football, and I am concerned that there's the injury concerns with Devontae Adams, likely not going to play, and Puka Nacua even has some question marks. But I can't pick against them right now. They're my Super Bowl. They're my Super Bowl favorite. I think they're going to win the Super Bowl this year. If I think they're going to win a Super Bowl, I can't have them going and losing to Seattle. Give me the LA Rams to get a victory on the road here.
yeah, I am with you on this one. I think the Rams have one of the best offenses and typically one of the best defenses in the NFL. The Seahawks, they have a really good defense as well. But, I have concerns with that Seattle offense still last week. Wasn't able to find the end zone, still got the win against a Colts team that's been struggling. So I'm going to go with the Rams here.
Yeah, and quickly, one last note to add on this one. We've always talked about what is Sam Darnold's kryptonite? It's pressure. This is a team that gets after the quarterback at a high, high level. Last time they played him, 4 interceptions from Sam Darnold. I don't expect that kind of performance again, but that just shows you when you have a good pass rush, that's a quarterback you can get after, and he will make mistakes. Moving into this Saturday football that we're going to see here down late in the season, we get some Saturday football because college football, it doesn't have the regular season games going on, but there will be some massive college football games going on Saturday. So they're going to be competing with each other. We'll see which slot wins over. Philadelphia taking on Washington in what is a divisional matchup. If this game was last year, I'd have said, heck yeah, this is going to be a fun one. This year, it shouldn't be very close at all. Give me the Philadelphia Eagles to absolutely blow out the Washington Commanders. I just love the way they played last week. I think that their offense has got back and going. And although Washington showed some promising things, it was the New York Giants. So I don't expect it against Philly. Give me the Eagles.
Yep, I think the college football will definitely win this slot specifically over. Not too many fans watching this one over what's going on in college football, but I'm going to go with the Eagles here as well. Like I said, the Commanders did show a little bit of promise, but at the end of the day, they're just not a very good football team this year. The defense is much older. I think this Philadelphia team showed the offense is much improved from the previous week. So give me Philly in this one.
Yep, moving on to this next one here. Green Bay going on the road to Soldier Field to a place that when they had Aaron Rodgers, they owned the Chicago Bears. They owned them every single year. It was win, 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 and that's all they did. Well, now you're going to Chicago. You got to go in there and you got to beat them. And those ticket prices are incredible. Chicago fans are going to show up. They love this team. When they're hot, they have a crazy good fan base. And with all those injuries to Green Bay, I just can't trust them in this environment, in this game, especially with the way Chicago's playing. So give me the Bears to get a huge victory at Soldier Field, and Caleb Williams can split the season series with Jordan Love.
Yep, I'm going to go with Green Bay in this one. I think last week you saw Jordan Love kind of struggle. A lot of that was because Watson got injured. It's looking like he's questionable for this week, but I think he should play. Still don't trust Caleb Williams enough to win this big game over Green Bay. So I'm going to go with the Packers here.
Yep, and rolling on into this Sunday day slate, starting us off with a game that shouldn't be very close, should be very cold though. Buffalo going into Cleveland to take on the Browns, but Buffalo thrives in cold weather. They love it. Josh Allen loves it. He played at Wyoming, of all places. That's a place to go ahead and get cold. So he's been in it his whole career, and it is a place that he plays well. So I expect that Josh Allen will dominate this Cleveland team. Question, will he get sacked in this game? Colin, I'll leave that to you. I'm going to pick the Bills. What's your answer on that one?
Yeah, first of all, I'm going to go with the Bills on this one. It should not be a very close game. Weather is going to be absolutely no benefit for Cleveland in this one. But I don't think he breaks it this game. Unfortunately, I think he's going to break it against the Steelers next week.
Yeah, I would say that Josh Allen's a lot harder to bring down than the old man and
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers. And unfortunately, it would suck that if it happens against the Steelers of all teams, he'd be beating out the guy that, of course, has the record right now. And it'd be kind of similar to that situation where Brett Favre just kind of fell down so that
Yeah.
Strahan could originally get the record. What if we see an Aaron Rodgers just because he's old, just kind of drop down and Myles Garrett could break the record in a very similar fashion that Strahan, of course, got that record so many years ago. Could be very fun, interesting one to watch. And honestly, the eyes that will be on that TV might just be for that moment. That if he does get one of those sacks. Moving on to this next one, LA taking on the Dallas Cowboys. And honestly, you see Dallas as the favorite in this game. And a lot of that has to do with this offense is so high powered. And the Chargers have struggled a little bit at stopping some high powered offenses. But man, the Chargers bottled up Patrick Mahomes in that offense last week and absolutely shut them down. And I don't trust Dallas's defense at all. It doesn't matter who they're playing. They showed it to me last week that J.J. McCarthy could pick them apart. Justin Herbert can certainly do that. Give me the Chargers and technically an upset victory here in Jerry's world.
Yeah, I'm honestly super surprised by this line. With Dallas being the favorites, they haven't played really good as of late. Dallas hasn't, and then the Chargers have won two really big games in the past 2 weeks. So I'm gonna go with the Chargers here. I just don't trust Dallas's defense enough to beat this Justin Herbert led offense. So I'm gonna go with the Chargers.
And moving on to this next one here, as you can see, it is the Tennessee Titans. Not the cheapest tickets this week. We've got the Chiefs in town, so tickets are selling. Those prices might go down without Patrick Mahomes on the field, though. But who knows? Chiefs fans could be watching the last ever Travis Kelce game in Nashville. So maybe they want to be there for that. I don't think the Titans are a very good football team at all, and Gardner Minshew has already beat us in the past when he was with the Jaguars. He's now the quarterback of the Chiefs, and Gardner Minshew, arguably one of the better backups in football. It's kind of surprising he took that opportunity and went to the Chiefs. I guess he was thinking maybe I can get a ring, but he's a great backup. I mean, if he was somewhere that needed one, he'd be playing a lot of football. So he's now going to get a takeover in this offense. I think their weapons are far better than ours. We don't have a Rashee Rice, we don't have a Travis Kelce, and we certainly don't have a superstar type of player like that. On the defensive side, we do. I think we have a better D tackle, and I think theirs is pretty good in Chris Jones. But Jeffrey Simmons, I'll take every day of the week. So give me the Jeffrey Simmons side of the effect that we have, but we have nothing else on them. We just don't. They are better in every other category. I don't think they're all that great this year, but the Titans aren't either. I'm going to take the Kansas City Chiefs to get a victory over us, but I do think this will be a close game. I see that line there. Vegas obviously knows something, but I just don't think the Titans are good enough to beat the Chiefs even without Patrick Mahomes. But there are concerns. That Chiefs defense is very liable to give up, a crazy good game, and this could be Cam Ward's breakout. Who knows? But give me the Chiefs to get a victory here.
Yeah, I'm actually, I've picked the Chiefs a ton, and I've rarely ever picked the Titans, just once, but I'm going to do it here. Chiefs, they're without any playoff hope at this point, so I don't know that they're going to get up for this game, especially being against the Titans that are 2-10. It's just like not something that they're going to be too excited to play, especially no Mahomes. Minshew, like you said, he has been a very good backup throughout his career, even a starter at some points. So I think Kansas City, the offense, if they are able to get up, it might be bad for Tennessee, but I just don't trust that they will. I'm gonna go with Tennessee here. They've been playing really, honestly, some good football as
Yeah.
of late, especially on the offensive side of the ball. So I'm gonna go with Tennessee on this one.
And I want to see a lot of positive things here from Cam Ward in that offense. I want to see those pieces play well. And if we won, again, morale boost for the guys. But now we're getting into the point of the season where winning really hurts you because you could drop from three all the way out of the top six because of all those teams that have lost a bunch of games sitting right around you. So I just think it's really important that honestly you lose, which sucks to say because you don't ever want to lose when you're a fan of a team. But at this point, it would just be better to do so. Also, I think the biggest discrepancy in this game potentially is Andy Reid and then number 32, which is our coach right now. He's probably the worst in football. Again, Mike McCoy, I believe, is who is currently the acting interim head coach. That could change this game as well in a very close one. It's just Andy Reid does the right things. Moving on to this next one here, Cincinnati taking on Miami in Miami, so Miami might have a chance. But then you look at who's starting at quarterback for them, and it's Quinn Ewers. And when he appeared in his last game, he looked horrible. He didn't look very good at all. I think they're just doing it because they're ready to move off of Tua and just going to see if they have something because Quinn Ewers was a five-star prospect coming out of high school. I don't expect much out of Miami. I don't think they're going to beat Cincinnati. I think Joe Burrow's a far better quarterback. I think that their weapons on offense are far better. And Ewers might look good because the Cincinnati defense is probably the worst in the NFL. We're one of the worst, but I just think Cincinnati has too much talent. Give me the Bengals here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Bengals here as well. I just don't trust Quinn Ewers at all. I think the arm talent is definitely there, but like you said, there's a reason that Quinn Ewers did not win that starting job in Miami with his one start. And I think Joe Burrow is going to have a much, much better game than he had last week. I think that was one of the worst games of his career, and I think he'll be able to bounce back from that in a big way. I think he'll probably have T. Higgins back, and this Miami team, both teams are out of the playoffs, but I don't know that Miami's going to be too hyped up coming off that big loss. They kind of had their hopes up, possibly making the playoffs, making a late season push, and then last week got their pretty much their season ended. So I'm gonna go with the Bengals here.
Yep, moving on to this next one here. A battle of two teams that, looked like maybe 8 games into the season that this was just wouldn't be worth watching at all. But now Tyler Shuck has looked pretty good for New Orleans. I think they've got some fun pieces. And again, I expect them to win this game 100%. I actually like taking them with 4.5 points too. The Jets have shown me absolutely nothing to prove that they can hang around in these games. And New Orleans has. They've won games late. They've been able to finish games against teams that aren't that bad. I mean, they beat two teams that could potentially be in the playoffs. So I think New Orleans Saints are just a better football team. I think Tyler Shuck is a better quarterback than anybody on that New York team. And I think honestly they have just better weapons overall. I don't think that Garrett Wilson will play. Chris Olave will be the best receiver on the field. Just everything points in the direction for me for the New Orleans Saints. So give me the Saints to get it done here.
Yep, I think the Saints. I like the Saints as well with the points. I think they've been playing really good football as of late, beating both, like I said, division leaders in their division the last 2 weeks. So some pretty impressive things there from them. I think they honestly they make it three straight, which at one point in the season you would have thought you were crazy if the Saints winning three games in a row. So interesting to see how the Saints have been playing much better at the end of the year, and I think it'll help them moving forward into next year, getting these three wins. So I'm gonna go with the Saints in this one.
Yeah, moving on to this next one here. Minnesota taking on New York, and New York coming off of a rough loss where they gave up 29 points to the Washington Commanders. Can Minnesota give you those kinds of points as well? I think that's definitely a possibility. But I will say, New York, they have had some bounce back games. Jackson Dart seems like the kind of player that wants to bounce back when he takes a loss like that. And actually, I'm going to take the underdog. I'm going to take the upset here. Give me the New York Giants and that incredible pass rush to get after McCarthy, pressure him, get him to make those mistakes that he's made this year, and the Giants will pick up a victory here in East Rutherford.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Vikings in this one. As much flack as I've gave nine, JJ McCarthy, he's had two back-to-back pretty good games. So I think he'll be able to continue that. And then for the Giants, I mean, honestly, they've outgained and outstatisticked, I guess,
Yeah.
teams in just about every game this year. They're just unable to find ways to win games. Hopefully, their next coach will be able to change the culture there and find ways to win those games. But it's just not the case this year. So I'm gonna go with Minnesota.
Moving on to our next one here. Tampa Bay taking on Carolina in what is probably the most important game of the week because of the implications that the two teams have. Whoever wins this one sets themselves up really nicely going into that last matchup that they will play to try to see who can make the playoffs out of that division. Tampa Bay, to me, is the better, more talented team, but Carolina has played some better football as of late. They haven't really, they, of course, didn't play good last week and lost that game and should have had an opportunity to separate themselves, but it's a really tough one. It's a toss up to me. I would most of the time just go with talent, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think that again, those injuries, they've got some of those guys back. I think Mike Evans is looking good. Godwin has gotten better, and Ibuka slowed down, but he's still there. Bucky Irving is healthy, and Baker. I just think this is an easier defense to face right now. So give me the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but I do think this will be a very close game.
Yep, I'm going to go with Carolina in this one. I think the home field advantage for Carolina is going to be big in this one. Neither team really has been playing too good as of late, but I think Carolina has been playing a little bit better. I do expect them to split the series overall. I think Tampa will take the one in Tampa, but I'm going to go with Carolina here in Carolina.
Yep, again, going to be a complete toss up that one there. And the next one here could also be a complete toss up with the way the Jacksonville Jaguars are playing. I love this Jags team now way more than we obviously did 4 or 5 weeks ago. Trevor Lawrence is playing like a superstar. Now, you're running into a very good Denver defense and a team in Denver that also knows how to win late in games. They've done it many times. I think that injury to Bashal Tutin, maybe that isn't the biggest thing flying on people's radars, but he scored 6 touchdowns. So obviously he's finding the end zone for them some. I think that the load that Travis Etienne is going to have to carry in the rushing attack and in the receiving attack could be potentially a little bit too much. I think Denver is really hot. I think their defense is great, and I think their offense has looked so much better with Bo Nix rolling and all those offensive weapons being big time playmakers. And another thing that I've mentioned time and time again this year, when you play at Empower Field at Mile High in Denver, Colorado, the Denver Broncos have a massive advantage over you because they practice there and they play half their games there. They're very good in that stadium. Give me the Denver Broncos to get a close win here.
Yeah, I really want to go with Jacksonville, honestly, as good as they've been playing, but I just can't because of what you said with the home field advantage there in Denver at Mile High. They're just a tough team to beat there. If this was in Jacksonville, I would probably go with the Jaguars, but since it's in Denver, I'm going to go with the Broncos, who have been playing exceptionally well this year.
Yeah, and I don't think that the Jacksonville Jags get as much of that effect that Miami does when they go play.
Yeah.
I've heard the crazy statistics about playing in the cold, but that could be an effect here. Also, with them being in a hot weather, of course, down there in Florida. Moving on to this next one here, Atlanta taking on Arizona, and this actually should be a really fun game. $13 tickets. I'd actually be plenty willing to go check this one out. Two older quarterbacks, of course, Kirk Cousins toward the end of his career. Jacoby Brissett probably has a little time left. I think it should be really fun. Again, the offenses are extremely high powered. The defenses aren't incredible by any means, so we should see good offense here. I'm just going to take Atlanta. I'm going to take them based on the way that Kirk Cousins played last week. I think if he's playing that good, the Cardinals defense literally can't stop them, and Atlanta at least has some star guys off the edge. The way that James Pierce is playing lately, a sack in his last 5 games, it looks like that pick they traded. He's at least going to be valuable enough to where it doesn't look horrible to make that move. And I think Atlanta just overall, just a little bit better football team with a little bit more talent. So give me the Falcons on the road.
I'm going to go with the Cardinals here. I think I've picked the Cardinals quite a bit. They just don't win for me, but I love Jacoby Brissett this year. I don't know what it is. He's just been playing so well. I hope for the Cardinals that they're able to get him a win. And I think this is probably their best chance to do it against the Falcons, who are coming off a pretty impressive win against the Buccaneers. But overall, I don't think the Falcons are a very good football team. They do have some good weapons, obviously, but I'm gonna go with the Cardinals here in a little bit of an upset.
Yep, and this next one, Colin, I'm gonna hate to do it. I've picked the Steelers a ton this year. I mean, I've been all over the Steelers. I've picked them in games that just didn't think they honestly had much of a chance, and they were able to pull them off. But I think Detroit in their home stadium and the way that they have to win this game, they desperately need it. And the Steelers, the biggest game they need to win is when they play Baltimore again. This one isn't as important. Now, obviously, you want to separate yourselves if possible, but I just think Detroit, they have to win. They have to. The playoffs is over. It's out of talks if you don't win this game. And I think they're going to have enough of an offensive attack and just enough defensively. I mean, Aiden Hutchinson getting after Rodgers does scare me a little bit. So I think Detroit will win this one, but I would take Steelers with the points here because again 7 is crazy to me with the way the Steelers play. They're at least in these kinds of games. I think they'll keep it close, but Detroit will get the victory here.
Yeah, ever since I switched to picking the Steelers, they haven't lost. So I'm going to pick the Steelers here. I don't think they're going to win again, but I'm going to roll with them because they've been winning ever since I started picking them. So I'm going to go with the Steelers here. I'm very, very scared of Jameson Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown and the run game. It really just that offense in general scares me. I think it's obviously one of the most high-powered offenses in the NFL, has been for the last 2 years. I don't know that Pittsburgh has enough on defense to stop it. They were able to take care of business against Miami. Obviously, not as good of an offense, but they do have some pieces with Achane and Waddle. And you're going to get T.J. Watt and James Pierre back this week, which I think will be big for them. I just don't think they have enough to stop those two weapons. But like I said, I'm gonna go with Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and moving on to this next one here, the Vegas Raiders going to Houston to take on the Texans, and I think this is the biggest spread we had all week. Houston will absolutely dominate this game. I don't know if they'll win by over 2 touchdowns. That's really hard to do in the NFL, but they certainly could because Kenny Pickett just showed you last week he just can't handle playing those big games, and if the Eagles got after him the way they did, Houston's defense is even better. That pass rush is even better, and they're going to get back there and cause havoc. I think that Houston will absolutely blow out the Vegas Raiders. Now, I hope Vegas pulls off something crazy and beats them because it obviously would help the Titans draft position wise, and the Texans are one of the teams we play, so that would lower that record that we have to. Our strength of schedule is so high because of the division we're playing in is somehow good this year. But yeah, Houston is going to win this game and probably win by 3 scores.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Houston here as well. Obviously, it's probably not gonna be a close game. Honestly, you kind of feel for Kenny Pickett. He comes in against the Eagles, who are a really good team, and now you've got Houston, who has probably the best defense in the NFL. So he's not really catching a break there. Not what you want to see for your first 2 starts in a bit. So you kind of feel for him, but I mean, overall, he's had plenty of chances, and he's shown he's not an NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
And I think he'll probably show that again this week against this really good Texans defense. So give me Houston.
Yeah, and that creative style of football that he played in college, it worked really well in college, but we've seen other guys with that creative style come to the league and it just doesn't work as well because defenses are more disciplined and they're able to make those plays. I mean, the obvious play that will always be remembered for Kenny Pickett is the fake slide, and then he gets, fakes the slide and runs for a touchdown. He now has a rule changed because of him. So he'll have that he can always, say, I did that. I changed a rule in college football or in football in general with the fake slide, but I just don't think he's an NFL quarterback, like you said. Moving on to this next one, I think there is a real case that we could build one of the best, betting slips we've ever seen. Some of these bets feel really good. And here's another one that I love. You're giving me the New England Patriots and 3 points against the Baltimore Ravens. Now, I know it's at Baltimore. It's probably going to be very cold. Derrick Henry absolutely feasts in that weather. That is when he wants to play big football. But this Baltimore team has not showed me anything that tells me they are just levels better and should be favorites against the New England Patriots, who just about beat the Bills and just blew that game late. Drake May's healthy, and they have their guys going on offense. This is crazy to me. Give me the New England Patriots, and I guess I'm taking them technically in an upset, but I think this is the game where they're gonna again. I picked Pittsburgh to lose. I think Baltimore will as well, which sets up that final matchup to be so important between the two of them. But also, this is maybe the game where Mike Vrabel wins the Coach of the Year if he can get up to that high of a standard, and maybe the game that Drake May can separate himself from Stafford if something goes wrong. Should be a really fun one to watch, but I don't quite get why Baltimore is the favorite. Give me the Patriots here.
Yeah, I don't see it either. I'm going to go with the upset too, I guess. In the Patriots to beat Baltimore. I mean, they did beat Cincinnati last week, but did they really show you enough to give make them favorites over the Patriots, who have lost 3 games this year? Vegas has loved the Baltimore all year, even
Yeah.
when they were 1-5. They still had them as favorites to win the AFC North, which was crazy to me at the time. Which they have made it close, but they're still even late in the year, but behind Pittsburgh. So I'm not sure why Vegas loves Baltimore so much. Obviously, they're really talented, but I think they've shown with Lamar's limited scrambling ability since his injury, the offense just has not been as dominant as it was when Lamar was completely healthy. And New England has been dominant pretty much all year. So give me New England here.
I think another thing, maybe Vegas just won't admit that they got it wrong when they said Baltimore was the favorite to win the Super Bowl this year. Maybe
Yeah.
that's something else. They're just trying to save their butts there if people took the other side of that bet. But it is interesting to see the Ravens be a favorite. It's pretty wild. Moving on to our Monday Night Football game. I think again 5 6 weeks ago this looked like an awesome matchup that we're going to get late in the year that between two teams that maybe be the top of the conferences, and now it looks completely different. I think San Francisco, they've got healthy, they got their quarterback back, and it's the opposite for Indianapolis. They got unhealthy, lost their quarterback who had been kind of the most important part of the offense other than Jonathan Taylor, because when those two were working together in harmony they were really good. They were 7-1 like I said before. It's the opposite of that now. I just don't think that Philip Rivers can beat San Francisco. I think that they can hang around this game. They hung around against the Seahawks, who are a really good football team. So I can see them being in this one. And I also could see Jonathan Taylor having a good day. It's in Indianapolis. It's their home stadium. They're going to have fans there. They are a pretty big fan base. But I just don't expect a victory here. Give me the Niners to go in to Lucas Oil and get a huge win.
Yep, I'm gonna go with the Niners here as well. I just don't, like I said, I don't see it out of Philip Rivers at this point in his career. Uh, Coming out of retirement after 4 years, he was stumbling around in the backfield, not mobile whatsoever. And I mean, the arm talent, it's still kind of there, but
Yeah.
it's not what it once was. Unfortunately for Indianapolis, this season has kind of fallen apart on them. They're, it's really, really likely that they miss the playoffs at this point. So give me San Francisco here.
Thank you guys so much for joining us this week. Obviously, you got to see our recap and our review of the games and our picks for this week. It's going to be a full slate. This video has been a long one, so if you're here with us, I really appreciate it. We're going to get the 16 game recaps and the 16 game pick'ems until the playoffs roll around. So these are going to be kind of the long ones. Also, look out for a mock draft in the near future. We're going to plan to do a pretty big one here, also with trades. It's going to be our first trade mock, so that's going to be really fun because we'll talk about a few teams that I think will move around and potentially make moves to try to get certain players. Of course, I already mentioned it earlier that the New York Jets are a heavy trade candidate to try to go up and get Fernando Mendoza, especially with the allotment of picks that they now have after trading all those trades they did. I think they were kind of preparing for that to try to get it move up and get a quarterback. So be interesting to see what happens there. Colin, we talked about all these games. You got anything else you want to add?
Yeah, a couple things. Like I said, Josh Allen, I think this is his best shot that he's had in his career for the Bills to win the Super Bowl, or at least make it to the Super Bowl. You're not going to have your kryptonite in Patrick Mahomes. Probably not going to have Lamar Jackson. You're probably not going to have Joe Burrow, which are the three guys that really have the most experience in the playoffs in the AFC. So you're not going to be doing it with any of those guys. So I think this is Allen's chance, or best chance so far at least, to make a Super Bowl run. And then also for Pittsburgh, if they're able to win this week and the Patriots are able to take care of business against Baltimore, I think that kind of locks up the division because they Pittsburgh plays Cleveland next week, which they're likely going to win, and they would be 2 games up on Baltimore no matter what happens in their next game, going into that last week of the season. So a win over Detroit here would be huge for Pittsburgh. Like I said, I don't know that they can get it done, but it would be massive for them.
Yeah, and you mentioned that Browns game being so important for the Steelers. Another thing that could also happen is the Steelers could lose this week, and the Ravens still lose because their matchup is so rough. And then the Steelers pull that one out, and the Ravens lose again, and then again it still wouldn't matter. So a lot of positives for the Steelers right now, looking to try to make that playoff push. And I think if they get in the playoffs and they somehow find a way to get a victory, and I think with Aaron Rodgers you can definitely do that. I think the Mike Tomlin rumors would kind of die down, and they would keep him as the coach, especially if they got a playoff win. I think that
Yep.
would it would be really beneficial if they won the division and got a playoff victory in the same season. I don't know who they would match up with, but it could be a very fun matchup because, again, the AFC is going to have a lot of new teams, interesting teams in there because there is no Mahomes. There is no potentially no Lamar Jackson, potentially no, well, we know there probably ain't going to be any Joe Burrow. I think that they're basically ruled out. So it's going to be new. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Obviously, if you like college football, check out the channel. I'm going to have a college football pick'em for the playoffs as they're rolling around. So check that out. It will also come out here soon. You're seeing this probably on a Thursday. College football video should be out on a Friday, and we'll look to make a mock draft relatively soon as well. Maybe get that out over the weekend. Again, we're going to have, I'm almost done, and Colin is, so we should be able to get a little bit of content out here over Christmas break and all that, or I guess it ain't even Christmas break anymore. It's just Christmas for us now. There's no break because there's no college coming up, but there's potentially some jobs coming up. So the real world, I guess you could say. But we've had a lot of fun filming today. Obviously, talking football is a passion of ours, and I thank you guys for being here. If you are here now, like, subscribe, comment, helps the channel out a ton, and we'll see you guys again next week. We talk some more football. Peace.
Peace.